Let's get ready to RPG!
RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG!
Hello, everyone. That didn't work the first time. Welcome to the Knights of Last Call. My name is Derek Melenda, and I am welcoming you back to what I'm sure will be our most popular stream ever, coming in hot off of the immensely popular Dagger Heart Dagger Week, where we spent the last 2 weeks doing, I think, 40 hours of streams covering everything from GM stuff, player stuff, class stuff, rule stuff, philosophy, ideas for the game. Now, we're moving on from Dagger Heart. Now, are we discussing the sold-out game that is sort of a hype engine right now? No. Are we discussing the indie darling that is Shadow Dark and recently just did a $2.3 million Kickstarter? No. True to our roots, we today are going to be talking about an RPG that you may not know, and I don't know, and probably no one knows. Today, we are going to be talking about Panic at the Dojo. Not Panic at the Disco, but Panic at the Dojo. Now, we do have an important question or important thing that we need to decide before we get into it, which is, this is Panic at the Dojo First Edition. There is a second edition coming out, and it's in the beta. So both are available when you buy the PDF. So I downloaded both. I don't know if we want to do the official first edition or if we want to take a look at the beta, which is going to be what the second edition is going to be, presumably here in the near future. So we'll kind of get address that there shortly. That being said, we'll go from there. For those of you who may not have known what we do here at Nice Last Call, we usually don't talk about popular RPGs. We usually talk a lot about GM philosophy and dungeons and sometimes dragons, and also a lot of what we call these first looks. And first looks are where we look at a game that we have not looked at before, where I don't know the game at least, and I get a vibe for it. It's not a review, because I haven't played it, and I'm literally reading it for the first time here with you online. And just kind of giving you my thoughts and my feelings and some of the ideas, and kind of maybe giving you a sense of what the game is. So it's a quick read through. Sometimes these books are very short, but in this case, we do not have a short one. It's a longer one, 200 plus pages. So we may not be able to, quote unquote, get through all of it. And then similarly, when we're doing one of these, what we're really trying to assess as I sort of go through these is answer Jared Sorensen's big three questions, which are, okay, we've got an RPG game here. What is this game trying to do? Why would we pick this game over any others? Does this game have a point? Is this game trying to do something better or different or more niche, or what is its unique value offering as a game system? Why would I pick this game up over, say, Pathfinder 2nd Edition or Daggerheart or D&D 5th Edition or Shadowdark? Second is, all right, so the game is about something, or at least it says it's about something. What are the mechanics in this game, and how do they support that goal? Do the mechanics help achieve what the game is about? And lastly, how does the game reward us? If we do what the game tells us to do by using the mechanics that are tied into what the game is about, how does the game reward us? Does the actions that as a player or PC we want to take, are those the things that are still tied into what gives us our progression or reward? Is there a reward system? Most games typically do. Whipplestein wants to know how I ended up choosing the topic. At some random point during some random stream last week, somebody mentioned this game. That's literally how it came up. And of course, we did have a poll today. So I was supposed to play racquetball. I usually play racquetball on Mondays. We did not play racquetball today. Edward, thank you, my friend.
Edward tipped $20. Long live first looks. I can't watch now, but I'm looking forward to the VOD.
Awesome, Edward. Well, I hope you enjoy the VOD, and thank you, Edward. Yeah, this, PDFs have gotten more expensive, even for these small press publishing, and so the best way to support us is, of course, joining the Patreon. But I also, if you use our affiliate link, which is down in the description below at DriveThruRPG, we get a couple of percent. It doesn't cost you anything extra. I'm trying to save you money, but it does put a couple of bucks in our account over time, and then I can use those to buy those two things. So there we go. Trevco says, fuck it, we ball. Hell yeah, Trevco. Trevco just resubscribed with the second month of Prime membership. Thank you so much for that, Trevco. That is awesome. I really appreciate you being a subscriber to us on Twitch. And of course, remember, you can do that as well with your Prime sub. If you have one, you can do that for free. So you've all as well on 1 month getting ready to 2. Now go back to watching on YouTube. Awesome. Hold on a sec. 1 sec, folks. It's a little warm. Just want to turn a fan on. So, so what we do here is we're going to take a look at this game and we're going to kind of, feel it out. We do have a couple strip goals today, stream goals today, tip goals and super chat goals. Tip goal, of course, which Edward has already kicked us off to an amazing start, is I emptied my Drive-Thru RPG account. Please support more first looks. Those are always fun, and happy to getting back to those. And the second is our super chat goal, which is Derek. No, I missed Daggerheart. Where is the more Daggerheart? But of course, obviously, we have big plans for Daggerheart and what we want to do with it. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and hopefully we can have some more information for you here coming up in the future. But the Knights of Last Call, including my illustrious patrons, are hard at work trying to with me to try to put something together for Daggerheart. Boothby says, I care nothing about either of these tip goals. Excellent, Boothby. That's just what we love to hear. Boothby is a mystery. Boothby, what was your you had something on the poll. What was it? Hex crawls in D20 games. So is that all you really like, Boothby, is D20 games? I mean, I know you play other games, but it seems like you mostly just care about D20 games. Is that fairly accurate these days? I mean, I know you've played like some of the Free League games, but it seems like you pretty much keep running Pathfinder 2 games. Okay, you're prepping a Pathfinder 2 hex roll. Good luck with that. I'm curious how that came about. I will say it's challenging. Obviously, for Quest for the Frozen Flame, I had to completely create a whole new system of resource management, which was pretty heavily inspired by Forbidden Lands. So I suppose to answer your question, Boothby, and I only do this because Boothby is one of my top patrons. Boothby is I would throw out I would throw out all of the Pathfinder 2 rules about create water and the ease of creating food and light. I would make torches and rations and water not be light bulk for like a week's worth of food. I would make food tracking, water tracking. I mean, that is assuming that you want survival to be an element of the hex crawl as well. I would make light a big deal and, maybe steal, beg, or borrow from elements of Forbidden Lands. But one of the first things you have to do is throw out all that other stuff. And then let me think how I would do this. You need to come up with some system or way of creation that can sort of represent the grind and slow decay of people out in the wilderness that isn't represented by a full night's sleep giving you a clean bill of health for all things even. It's okay if hit points come back fully, but there's got to be something where if the players get dropped to 0 or something like that, you have some sort of lasting injury or something, which of course will fuck with your Pathfinder 2 math and create a death spiral and probably lead to everybody dying. But there's a way somehow to get there. I don't know. It's a complicated question because the math is tight. All right, so we're going to take a look at the patched up edition, which is the beta, which is Panic at the Dojo by Vel Mini. This is by Liberia Gothica Games, and the cover art and many art pieces were done by Maddie Gonzalez, and additional artwork was done by Vel Mini, Crossi, HP Heisler, and Ziki Cohen. All right, so let's take a look here at our table of contents, and we'll kind of try to figure this out. So we have an action movie universe is chapter 1. We've got a bunch of pages about what is this game. Okay, great. Chapter 2, the basics. All right, cool. How do you play the game? What are the basics of understanding the game? Cool. Chapter 3 is tactical combat. Chapter 4 is what happens between combat. Note that the first thing is like, okay, here's the basics of the game. Then it's like tactical combat. And by the way, they mean it. That is almost 40 pages of combat rules. Then a whopping 8 pages on what do you do when you're not in combat. And then in chapter 9, we get, chapter 5, by the way, already up to a good start. Remember, like I always say, I like for people to start with the rules of the game first, and then move into, hey, how do you, okay, now that I know the rules and I know what things actually are, let's build a hero. So then we get into our meeting our heroes, chapter 5, and then chapter 6 is the forms that we can use. Sound very martial artsy. Chapter 7 is a bunch of lists of archetypes. So look, we obviously are not going to go through every single archetype, nor are we going to go through every single form, but we can take a look at some of this. Chapter 8 is for homebrew or making up your own stuff, and then chapter 9 is bosses and villains, and chapter 10 looks like it's still to be completed in the enemy forces. For this is, of course, the patched up edition. Genzo, thank you for 2 months resubscribing with your Prime sub as well. Thank you also to Unfortunate Pumpkin as well, who says, gotta remember to re-up those Prime subs, people. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is, if you bought it on DriveThruRPG, you can get, when I click on it, I get 2 options. I get the original version, this one, and then I also get this version, which is patched up. So I guess they're working on a beta. I feel like I should be playing Panic at the Disco.
Jacob Online tipped $10. I'm panicking.
Thank you, Jacob Online. Yeah, thank you so much for supporting this, and we are all panicking. All right, let's get into it. Thank you, Jake. So this is an action movie universe. Panic at the Dojo. I'm going to keep saying Panic at the Disco. Role-playing game set in a world where martial arts reign supreme and also magic exists a little bit. All mundane personal conflicts, such as overdue rent, petty theft, movie opinions, and whose turn it is to do the laundry, are decided by high-level martial arts fights, where people yell at each other a lot before throwing out punches, swords, explosions, ladders, shouting out their attack names, and various other signature techniques that have been passed down for generations. At the end of the day, someone gets what they want, and everyone else has to limp home empty-handed. Basically, this is what would happen if Jackie Chan cartoon was actually a documentary. Other examples to draw from include Kung Fu Hustle, a movie which I don't really liked or didn't really like. The tabletop games Feng Shui and Feng Shui 2. Those are also okay. The Last Airbender and Avatar Legend of Korra. Those are obviously really great. Shaolin Soccer, also not a fan. Dragon Ball, also not a fan. One Punch Man, also not a fan. And Full Metal Alchemist, also not a fan. All right, well, we're like 2 for 12 here. That's okay. There's no specific setting. That's okay. In this game, you and some friends will take on the role of an average person in this universe as a skilled fighter trying to carve out their own personal niche. You will usually be working together, but not always. There will be lots of enemies that get in your way, but at the end of the day, your goal is to get what you want and not give up too much to get it. This is an enhanced re-release of the original game. It came out in September 2018, and while it was ambitious, it had balance and clarity issues. The patched up release came out in 2025, 6 years later, and they made it to improve it. All right. To play, you'll need friends and dice, something to record things, whether on paper or pencil or digital. It's a game with many different kinds of tokens. Oh, it must be a board game. Anything with tokens has a board game. So this is not a role-playing game. This is obviously very clearly a board game. This is totally Settlers of Catan. I mean, it may as well just be Monopoly at this point. I mean, it's got tokens. So, I mean, that's basically the same thing as a board game. It's a board game / MMO, obviously. Anyways. Which are most easily marked using different colored dice, having a variety of poker chips, or any other method that you find bits. My preferred method is to draw a bunch of small circles on a sheet of paper, label each circle with a different kind of token, and as you gain them, put a die in there to mark how many. That is just such a board game. Wow, another stupid board game. Wow. It's basically 4th edition, which is basically WoW. By the way, yes, I am being sarcastic, by the way. I actually love all that. I mean, things can get too fiddly. We'll see if it does. We have a GM called the Director. Other people make a hero. Once everybody knows all the hero is, the Director, the game begins. It's played over they are not They are not mincing words here. Panic at the Disco. I'm going to say that a lot. Panic at the Dojo is played over a series of tactical battles, and the outcomes of those battles determine how the plot proceeds from there. So they are not mincing words. And remember, I said, what is this game about? Well, it seems like it is very clear. Each hero has something they want, and the director should place obstacles in their way to prevent them from getting it. And once the heroes have fought through everything in their way, and they got what they want, they win. First, we make heroes. Then the director makes villains. Then everybody introduces their hero in a debut scene. Once every player has debuted, they throw all the heroes into a fight. Each fighter establishes their motive. Then the director sets the fight's cinematic weight. Then a fight happens using tactical combat rules. Once the fight is over, the winning side gets what they want, and the losing side gets to make a last stand. If they won, they get 2 XP. Otherwise, they get 1 XP. And every 5 XP, you level up. After each fight, each hero must face a trouble. If danger is involved, that trouble can become a skill test. If an opposing or competing character would be involved, the trouble becomes a stance contest. That contest is very likely to lead into a fight. If each hero successfully faces a trouble, overcomes a test, or wins a contest without getting into a fight along the way, a new fight starts up anyways. This is a game about fighting. So if they resolve all of their troubles, all of their tests, and they win all their contests, we have a fight anyways. It doesn't matter. This game is about fighting. Now, that may sound crazy, but that's the way a lot of people play D&D and Pathfinder 2. So this process keeps repeating until everyone gets what they want and has no more reason to fight, or until you're done playing Panic at the Dojo. When you pick it up again, you can start over, or you can start with a new adventure, or keep going. So it's like made for one-shots and potentially some campaign-based play. Some terms have been color-coded. Okay. Stances are gold. Hero characters have 3 stances that they can use and switch between them. Enemies only have a single stance, except for bosses, which have 3 stances, and that's in gold. Forms are blue. These are the main building blocks of fighting, and all fighting styles are based on one of 12 forms. You create a stance by combining a form with a style. Styles are red, and this is how you differentiate your way of fighting from anyone else. Actions are green. These are the things that you can do on your turn. You spend numbers from your action pool to use an action, and then the action will tell you what to do. There are basic actions that everybody has, as well as unique actions, which are only found in specific forms and styles. Character options are purple. These include your build and archetype. All of these things are colored in purple. Choices in purple are binding and cannot be changed. They give you abilities that apply to your character at all times, regardless of what stance you are using. Skills are orange. These describe your character's life experience, abilities, and expertise. Skills are not used in combat, except to justify the cinematics of your actions. Super moves are alpha pink and delta teal, which a colorblind person like me thinks that this is exactly green, and I can't actually tell the difference between the green actions and the delta teal. Super moves, I guess the bicolor helps, are unlocked at level 2 and are incredibly powerful attacks that you can use some of the times. All right. This is a game with a lot of moving parts. All right. This glossary can help us if we need to go back and refer to something. But again, we just kind of talked about this. So, definitions for what an action is, what advancement is, what an ally is, what armor is, what the arena parameters are. Bleed, bosses, builds, burning tokens, challenge tokens, cinematic weight, the comeback rule, contests, copies, cost, dizzy, enemy, enhancing a hit, fall damage, fatigue tokens, fog, force movement, the grid, healing, health bars, heal value, heroic spirit, hit, initiative meter, iron tokens, numbers, number caps, obstacles, the outside, pits, power tokens, pushes, purple dice, range, reducing a hit, round, rubble, shields, skill caps, skills, spaces, speed tokens, stances, stance checks, status tokens, stooges, styles, super moves, taken out, targeting. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. All right, well, there's a lot of terminology in this game. I hope it's worth it. Hopefully they like, I mean, this is probably just like a one, 6 pages of terms that, just in case you need to look something up. All right. More complicated than I thought. Every time that people are like, oh, Derek, we have this cute little RPG we want you to take a look at. I'm always like, okay, this is going to be like, 40, 50, 60 pages. And then they always just like vote for this, like, or like, they always want to see like some 300-page monstrosity that no human being could ever possibly like understand in a single sit down, let alone a live stream about it. I don't know why people keep choosing that. I guess people just like complicated games. I guess if the game was short, they would have read it maybe, but maybe not. I don't know. All right. Panic at the Dojo. Actually, you know what? Do a poll real quick. That is why that's been fucking with me. This needs to go over here. That needs to go right there. Perfect. I jumped in. What type of Zoom? All right. What type of TTRPG do you prefer? A complex game, heavy with a lot of, moving pieces and parts and hundreds of pages and, hundreds of terms and terminology and feats and choices and endless, little intrications. Medium weight games like, say, Dragonbane, maybe, where, it's probably 100 pages or less. And then a lightweight game, something that's probably 30 pages or less, something really simple. And maybe if it's long, it doesn't really have a lot of moving parts. It's more of just like description and fluff. I'm just curious what people like. So this is a game about fighting. You get styles and special attacks to defeat your enemies and get what you want. This way you represent your combat is by creating 3 different stances. A stance is a stance is made by combining a style and form together. The final stance consists of all abilities and actions from the style and form you combined and is named using the format of style, form, stance. For example, if you combine the lucky style with the power form, you end up with the lucky power stance. This chapter will go into depth about each of these forms, archetypes, styles, abilities, actions, and stances. And by the way, as a colorblind person, all 3 of these words, abilities, actions, and stances, look exactly the same color to me. So being color, hopefully the color coding doesn't mean too much because I cannot tell these apart. Just saying, FYI, by the way. I mean, I can tell maybe this one apart because it's a little bit darker. It has more of a darker hue or darker value, but the actual hue is pretty fucking bad. Forms are the basic building blocks of fighting. There are 12 of them. Archetypes are a collection of styles with similar theme. You will have between 1 and 3 archetypes, depending on how focused your character is. This will also give you a passive ability that you can always use. Styles are your personal spin on fighting and modify the forms to create your own unique method of combat. All right. Looks like everyone has voted for medium weight. Ludo says the book also looks like a bit like a Google Doc from what I remember. It's a bit of a chore to read. I am getting major Google Doc vibes. Now, obviously, this is a nice little bit of formatting, but yeah, this is just, single column, 1-inch margins, Times New Roman, basically just endless text, just a literal wall of text. It's a bit like Strike. Yes. So here's a form called the dance form: butterfly, circle, hurricane, rhythm, shuffle. And then we got descriptors for this. Let me see. Yeah, here, let me put this onto a 2-page spread so we can see this a little bit better. Okay. So we've got the name. This is the name of the form. Each form has 6 possible names. They are referred to throughout the book using the default name, such as dance form. But when you create the stance, you can use any form name that sounds cool to you. For example, instead of machine dance stance, you could name it the machine butterfly, or the machine circle, or the machine hurricane, or the machine. So these are just like more flavorful ways to describe your dance form. 2, your action dice. At the start of every turn, you will roll these dice to determine what the numbers in your action pool for the turn is. So you're going to roll a purple D10, a purple D6. I don't know if the numbers or colors matter, but and a D6 and a D6. 3, ability. Each form has a passive ability. You always have access to that form. Abilities are constant. While you're in a stance, oh, never mind. You can only use it when you're using that form. Okay. While you are in a stance, the abilities of your form and style are active and true. So, after you take damage, pay hit points, or are healed, you gain a speed token. When you bleed, gain 3 speed tokens. After each dice action you perform, if it applied forced movement to an enemy, they must discard 1 basic token, if they have any. If it applied forced movement to an ally, they get to heal 1. If it moved, swapped, or you teleported, you heal 1. We also get 3 speed tokens dance together. Choose someone within range. Pull them 1, then you move 1, then you pull them 1 more. Usable only once per turn. 4 is our unique action. Each form has between 1 and 3 unique actions it will give you. You can perform a form's unique actions only if you are in a stance using that form. So we've got the tango and the dance apart abilities. 5, skill. Each form gives you a skill. Remember, we use these out of combat. So we can put on a show. We can draw as much attention as we want for whatever we want from anything else for any reason. Okay. 6, keywords. Forms, archetypes, and styles are roughly categorized using keywords. There are 9 keywords. They have no mechanical benefit. They are just used to describe it. 7, complexity gives you an idea of how difficult the form is to use, between 1 and 3 stars. 1 is simple with few rules. 3 is complicated with many interactions. And 8, the formikin. Each form includes a little guy known as a formikin to show off a typical combat stance that a fighter might use within the form. Each formikin is based off of a real-world combat stance from a specific martial arts. So, well, this looks pretty cool. Peace out, Yuval. Good to see you. By the way, I did see that Sketchosaurus's gallbladder apparently did not in fact explode, so props to you, Sketchosaurus. Oh, here's another example that they decided to put sideways for some reason. But this is our archetype. I don't know why that decided to put that sideways, but they did. Okay. And here's a style. I'm not going to sit there like this and read it, but they have a name, they have keywords, they don't do anything. That's a general description. They have some art, a complexity. They get focused, fused, and frantic abilities depending on which type of hero you are. They each also have a unique action that you all have access to at all times. And then there's some rules clarifications. Styles. So this is a style, which we remember we combine with a form to create a stance. See, I'm learning. The name of the style, when it's combined with a form, it creates a stance. The style's name goes first. For example, the Halcyon Iron stance. Range is determined by your style. So your style picks what range you can do things at. Keyword, again, these don't do anything. They just help categorize it. 4, what ability you have. You have access to this whenever you are in the stance. 5 is your unique action. You have access to this when you're in the stance. 6, description. A quick description on how it plays and what it might interact with. So the Halcyon style is focused on iron tokens and support, so it pairs well with defensive and support forms. Paying for token actions does not count as removing tokens. And then 7, recommended stances. Several good forms to pair with this style are listed beneath each style and the reason for why. So there's a little bit of like helper text. And then just this kind of cool picture of, I don't know, like a screaming lizard person. Pretty cool. And then these are abilities, and I don't remember where or how they come from. But yeah. Cool. All right. Here are some common abilities. Armor, shields, unblockable, and a lot of text to describe it. Armor is a once a turn automatic block. The first time each turn that you take damage, if you ever. So one of a couple things I'm noticing right off the bat is it looks like damage is automatic. And it also looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, so we roll these dice, and then it looks like in order to use our abilities, we either need to spend tokens, which suggests that it is not random, or I'm guessing we need to cash in one of these dice that has at least this value. Like if we want a tango, we can cash in a 3+ dice, a 6+ dice, or 10+ dice. And if we do that, we can either get the basic ability or the improved ability or the supreme ability. So if we spend a 4 or higher, we can push someone 3 squares or whatever the game uses to someone within range. Then we get to move 1 square after. If we spend a 7 or higher, then we can move 2 squares. Then we can move 2. So we can move 3, then 1, then 2, then heal. Which suggests that this game... Now, we roll these at the start of our turn. Now, I don't know if this color coding means something. Like, can we only spend the green dice on this? Now, what I'm also interested in is, can we combine dice? Like, if I rolled a 4 on our first green D6 and a 6 on our second green D6, could I trade both of those in to do a 10+ tango? My guess is yes, because that way you could either do a bunch of smaller moves or you could do like 1 or 2 bigger moves. But again, I don't know where this color coding is, because we do have these green abilities here and these are purple. And we did see that there are purple abilities. So in that case, this is interesting because there's no output randomness. There's input randomness because you are rolling at the start of your turn. You're not 100% sure what you're going to be able to do. Obviously, you'll have your tokens, and then that can help decide some of what you want to do. But then you roll these, and now you say, okay, I have this pool of dice to work with. What do I want to do? Now, I don't know exactly how many actions you get or how you get them, but anyways. But yeah, it looks like stuff from our archetype is in purple. So maybe these dice can be used for stuff from here. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the different colors on the dice mean is. Okay. So armor is an automatic block. The first time each turn you take damage. If you have armor, reduce that by 3. So armor is binary. Armor stacks. If you have armor from 2 sources, then your armor triggers twice per turn. However, additional armor triggers are weaker. The second time blocks 2. The third time blocks 1. And beyond that, it only blocks 1. So it's 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Shields absorb damage. They can be used to block either damage or a specific type of token or nothing. You can only hold one shield at a time. If you gain a new shield, you can either replace your old shield or increase the value of your current shield by 1. There's a shield cap of 8. So shield looks like it absorbs damage or tokens coming in. For example, if you have shield 4, an enemy flame tongue. Let me change back to the single page so it's easier for you guys to read at home. If we have shield 4, an enemy flame tongue uses an 8+ incinerate, inflicting 3 damage and 3 burning tokens. If they give damage to you, they will also trigger their flame tongue ability to give you 2 more burning tokens. You have a couple options to use your shield. If you block the damage, your shield will absorb 3 damage and remain as a shield 1, but you will gain the 3 burning tokens. But because you didn't take damage, their flame tongue ability to give you 2 more burning tokens won't trigger. If you block the burning tokens, your shield will absorb all 3 burning tokens, remain as shield 1, but then you'll take 3 damage and then gain 2 more burning tokens because their flame tongue ability will trigger. You are still blocking burning tokens, however, so your shield will observe one of those 2 tokens break, and then you'll gain the last burning tokens. If you block nothing and save your shield for later, you'll gain 3 damage and 5 burning tokens, 3 + 2, and this is not recommended. All right. Unblockable, I guess, means you can't block it. All right, here we go. Cost. This is the cost you must pay to use the action. Most actions have a number, 1+, 5+. As long as you have that number or a larger number in your action pool, you may perform this action by... Okay, so you can't combine dice. All right. There are 3 possible costs. Dice, tokens, and free. Very few things are free. 2 is our name, and 3 is our effect. Okay. Interesting. So for 3 speed tokens, you can stunt. Place a fog, copy, pit, or trap obstacle into an adjacent space, then teleport 2 spaces. Token actions are actions that cost something other than a number. Like the name implies, they usually require you to spend some tokens, but not always. They may have you spend some of your shield or pay with hit points. Unlike dice actions, token actions require their full exact cost to be paid. You cannot spend anything else to use stunt except for 3 speed tokens exactly. And here's a free action, but you can only use it once per turn. Gated actions get stronger if you spend a bigger number to use them. They have multiple actions. Okay, so there we go. X actions include an X in effect and usually cost X to perform. You can spend any number from your action pool. Oh, cool. And then the X effect is the same as the X. Cool. Okay. So it's like a scaling thing depending on how big of a dice value you use. Neat. Okay, cool. And then here's an example of a choice and gated. Blah, 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 blah. I think we can all understand that. Once we reach level 2, we get super moves. They can only use once a fight. They all have the same cost. You have to spend 2 matching numbers, so we got to get a pair with a value of 3 or more. So 3 and 3, 4 and 4, 5 and 5. If your action pool has no matching numbers, then you do not have an opening to use a super move this turn. Okay, cool. So it's kind of like, right, like Outgunned, where you're like, oh, I got doubles, I got triples. Visualizing range. Now, obviously, this game strikes me as one that you would definitely want to play on a grid, as they seem to show here in this cool little isometric form. Range 1 is adjacent. Range 2 is adjacent, as well as any space that's... Okay, we all know what this is from Magic. Oh, they have a hex grid. Sweet. So you can play it with squares or hexes, and I would totally play it with hexes because that's sweet. All right, we got a lot of words for targeting. You know, it's fine. Adjacent enemies and stuff like that. I'm not too worried about that. That's just like super fiddly rule stuff. But, okay. So before we get into tactical combat, I guess what I'm seeing here is a input randomness tactical game where you use tokens and your action pool to make tactical choices to try to render your opponents down to 0. I don't hate that. It's very fiddly, and it's very, I don't know that even remotely feels like an RPG at that point. I mean, that is a very high gamist game with probably, I would imagine, very little room to not just play the tactical mini game. But if you were kind of fine setting aside the RPG for, a good chunk of time to basically play a sort of a beat 'em up skirmish game that's on a grid, that's fine. I think a lot of people would probably enjoy that. In fact, again, I stress this enough. I think a lot of people play PF2 and D&D that way, like a lot of people, and 4th edition or whatever. Not that people play 4th edition anymore. Every fight starts for a reason. Combat is never pointless. Someone involved has a problem, and they think the solution is through the other guy. You may be fighting because of a lie or misunderstanding. Once a fight breaks out, the reason doesn't matter, but a fight never starts without a reason. Okay? I want my money back. They insulted my hair. I'll teach them some respect. All right. Obviously, too, there's a lot of the medium is very important here. It's not, it's like, oh, this is very clearly based off of these kind of kind of over the top zany kung fu movies and shows and stuff like that. Because they talk about, they don't call him a GM, they call him a director. They talk about the cinematic weight of a fight. Basically, what's at stake and how big is this fight? How big, is it a big, huge action set piece, or is it just like a small little minor skirmish, in the local liquor store? There are 5 different weight classes, and we must pick different ones. So we're also mixing some boxing metaphors in here, which again is appropriate for a game that is all about fighting. So we've got featherweight fights, lightweight fights, heavyweight fights, middleweight fights, and world weight fights, where the very fate of the world is on the hand. Cinematic weight determines 4 things about a fight: how much HP you get per health bar, what the heal value is, what the bleed value is, and how often super moves are available to be used. HP per health bar is a balancing mechanism that keeps fight flowing at the correct pace. The heavier a fight, the more HP each fighter has, and the longer the fight will take to complete. So they literally dynamically change your hit point values. I'm assuming this is yours and the enemy's, perhaps, ? Based off of how important the fight is. And it also means that it will take less time at the table, because less hit points means the fight gets over faster. Heal value is how much you get back, so it's kind of tied to... So bleed and heal basically are like your healing and your damage over time, and obviously they have to go up or down depending on how the HP scales, And super moves are usable a limited number of times. In most weight classes, this is once per round, but super moves are twice per round in the world weight category and banned in featherweight categories. No mega super moves in your super minor skirmish. Featherweight fights go quick and don't mean much. It's a bunch of nobodies who mess with the wrong people. HP is low, the stakes are simple, so blitz tactics are favored, and healing is mostly valuable for picking people back up. In other words, choose one person, fight them till they're dead quickly, and then don't worry about healing. If someone randomly does get dropped, you can heal them, but otherwise don't worry about it. Everyone has 10 HP per health bar. Heal value is 1 and bleed value is 2. Now, we're not going to look at all of these, but we can see that it goes up 15, 20, 25, and at the world weight, it's 30 HP per health bar. Sometimes we have guest heroes and guest characters. I'm not too worried about that. This complication is simple. Just assign more health bars to the fight than there are heroes. This will add more enemies to the fight, making the heroes outnumbered, but will also give extra turns and health to the heroes too. For example, in a fight against 4 heroes, you can assign 6 health bars to the fight. This will give each hero 1.5 health bars and let you assign 6 health bars amongst your enemy units. Each side will get 6 turns per round, with 2 of the heroes getting an extra turn. The heroes can divide the health evenly, or the heroes can divide the health unevenly, handling entire health bars to the players who matter the most. All right. Sometimes, after everyone's declared their reasons for fight, you may notice that not everyone on one side is on the same side as their friend. You may have a hero join the enemy team or an enemy join the hero team. Okay, these are all complications. Here's rules for a three-way battle when you have a third side. Every fight ends with a dramatic climax. Somebody got beat. Someone's standing tall over them. Now decide what you get out of it. At this point, the winners must remind us what they were fighting for and then tell us how they achieved it. What did you do to take? What did you take or destroy? Who did you protect or honor? Then the losers of the fight must also remind us what they were fighting for, and tell us how they lost it. What did they fail? With the stakes set, how does everyone react? Do the winners show mercy or gloat? Do they bow with honor? What do the bystanders do? Finally, with all that answered, we can proceed to what happens next. Where do we go from here? And then we move on to between combat. What's up, John? Good to see you. Battle parameters are global modifiers to a fight that change the basic rules for how the fight works. Every fight should have at least one of these, and they come in three types: arena parameters, tilted parameters, and victory parameters. Arena parameters modify the rules of the battlefield, such as cage match, pyroclasm, trick room. So here's a cage match. They're half the size of a normal arena. The edge of the map is entirely accessible. There's nowhere left to go. So this is basically like, changing the terrain. Icy floor, lava, fighting on a factory floor with conveyor belts that move you around. Fighting in traffic. If you end the area in a danger zone, you take 6 damage. Tilted parameters only apply to one side of the fight, creating uneven circumstances and difficult fight, such as disarmed, enraged, chained down, handcuffed. They keep coming. Overwhelming power. You're in a weakened state. You guys have been drinking all night, and then you get ambushed. So you start the fight. 1 burning token, 1 weakness token, and 1 fatigue token. And then victory parameters change the winning condition of the fight. The default parameter is last one standing. But you can change that to things like King of the Hill, Outlast, Protect the VIP, Sabotage, Secure the MacGuffin, Tournament Play. All victory parameters add this rule to the game unless otherwise stated. The fight must go on. At the end of each round, all fighters heal equal to twice their heal value. The fight does not end when only one side is remaining. It ends when the victory parameter has been met. And my guess is last one standing does not use this rule. So in the other forms, basically everyone auto heals because it's not about whether you can take all your opponents out. That becomes not an option. You have to secure the objective. What a heavy-handed way. Because see, okay, part of the problem with D20 games, I'll do a little side rant here. Part of the problem with D20 games, a lot of people say, I've seen for years, a lot of people say, you need to have different objectives to a battle, And I agree, save the princess, disarm the trap, whatever, complete the ritual. And that way the fight becomes more dramatic. The problem is that the way that D20 is set up, the best way to disarm the trap is kill all the bad guys first, then disarm the trap when everybody's dead. The best way to rescue the princess is kill all the bad guys first, and then rescue her after everyone's dead, right? The best way to complete the ritual is kill all the bad guys first, and then, complete the ritual when everybody's dead. So it's like, it's problematic because by definition, we just, dead is the best condition. So a lot of times, and especially because of the way that these games are constructed, D&D, Pathfinder, you've got a lot more options for fighting and combat and doing extra damage and what have you, than you do anything else. So, when you start looking at like a good example would be like a rogue in PF2, the number of actions it would take to just disarm, to pick a lock. By that point in time, your rogue and the rest of the party could probably have killed all the enemies, and then you don't have to worry about, being on the timer. So it's interesting that this game uses this extremely heavy-handed approach of just saying, yeah, everybody just keeps healing, at the end of every round. Kill all the enemies is not an option except in last one standing because, I guess, or outlast, which also makes sense. But like protecting the VIP, sabotage, so that's really, really, really interesting. And it's, again, an extremely heavy-handed way to do it. But I'm not going to lie. I kind of love this rule. It is very gamist and it's very heavy-handed. I will freely admit that. But it does solve this issue in a very heavy-handed, way. Which sometimes you need to do because, when at the end of the day, TTRPGs, they don't survive contact with determined players. And a lot of time players are like, let's just, let's get it done. Yes, Ludo, I it's been a long time since I flipped through Lancer, but yes, it does have a similar idea. I don't remember Lancer auto healing everybody though, but maybe it does. I don't know. Also, this game's from 2018, so if anything, I don't know how old Lancer is. I don't know if it's that old. I always forget that Lancer and Beacon are two different games, right? It's Icon that is a derivative of Lancer. Beacon is its own thing. So that's kind of cool. Holding, and then they've got a whole section here for holding a tournament, of course. Okay, also, just as a side note, I don't like Dragon Ball Z. But I used to live, in my 20s, I lived with a roommate, two roommates. We had a house, a ranch in the suburbs. And they loved Dragon Ball. They loved Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. And so they would have it on the TV all the time. And so, it's funny because like I'd see an episode and it'd be like 3, and they watched it every day and they had it on like DVD or whatever. And I'd come back in like 3 or 4 days later that they'd be sitting on the couches watching it or whatever, eating a sandwich or something. And I'd be like, oh, hey, who's this guy? I'm like, they're like, oh, this is the same fight from Thursday. And I'd be like, oh, okay. Hasn't it been like 7 episodes? They're like, yeah, they're still fighting him. Anyways, but I do remember there was a really cool thing that I did see once, and I thought it was really cool, which was, I don't know if this was Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, but there was some tournament, and it was like not, against like somebody who's trying to destroy the world, and like Goku shows up, and there's this other guy who's kind of like not a villain, but more of like a rival to Goku. I think it's the guy with the third eye. And he's like fighting Goku. And Goku's like, wow, you've really been training hard. He's like, yeah. He's like, wow, you might actually be able to beat me. And he's like, yes, I finally be able to beat you. And then like Goku's like, oh, I forgot to take off my training equipment. And he's like wearing like 10 tons of like a 10-ton weighted vest or something like insane, right? Like it's like an exercise vest, but it's like it weighs like thousands of pounds. And like as he takes it off, it's just like, like it shakes the ground. And then he just like starts like zipping around at the speed of light. And it was like he forgot that he was wearing this like 5,000-pound vest. And I actually thought that was pretty cool. I was like, all right, that's a flex. I actually thought that was a pretty cool moment. All right. Okay, so that was from Dragon Ball. Yeah, so I've actually probably seen more Dragon Ball than Dragon Ball Z because Dragon Ball Z was like the worst thing ever. And obviously everything beyond that. But Dragon Ball, I thought, had a lot more, interest to it. Because it wasn't like, they weren't like, I don't know, gods fighting weird god aliens. I don't know. Anyways. And even then, I still didn't 100% like it because, it was weird. And what's his name? There was like, oh, I'm like, so this old man's like a super perv? And they're like, yeah, basically, he's just a pervert. But it's okay because he's old. And I was like, is it though? Is it? I don't think it is. But again, this was like 20 years ago. Genzo says, hot take, I also enjoy Dragon Ball more than Z sometimes. Well, there you go. I have one take on anime that apparently, some people can appreciate. I just thought Dragon Ball Z was so boring. I thought it was like when it was more small scale, it was interesting. When like the blue-haired girl became completely pointless in Dragon Ball Z, which she was basically. Like I thought it was more interesting. I liked that there were more side characters and stuff like that. So here's the grid, and they talk about the size of it. Oh, wow. Look at this. Interesting. The grid isn't interesting unless it is full of things to interact with. I completely agree, especially for a tactical fighting game. I think the biggest mistake you can ever make is play Pathfinder 2 or 4th edition D&D or anything. And if you just have a grid, a room with nothing in it, I think you're doing it not just bad, I think you're doing it wrong. Terrain is represented by obstacles, which come in many types: fog, pit, rubbles, traps, walls. Free placement fills the map with these. There are 2 steps to free placement. First, the director draws the shape of the arena and its size. Then they add at least 1 battle parameter and adjust the map accordingly. Then along each edge, the director decides if it's a wall or open. For the second step, each player adds an obstacle to the arena to fill it with interesting things to play around with. Each player may add a single type of obstacle: fog, rubble, pits, traps, or it's like communal map building, but instead of like a world map like you would in Fabula Ultima, it's the battle map. You may add up to 6 spaces of that obstacle, shaped and spaced however you would like them out. Once each player has added their obstacles, the director may either clear some space if things have become too cluttered, or add 1 more obstacle and then let it be, and then the battle begins. Interesting. Yeah, Thad, it's like a you go, I go terrain placement rule in like a war game, like Warhammer, you know, like I'll place a hill and then you place a forest and then I place a whatever. It's actually kind of cool. So then the enemies are placed and then the heroes are placed and there's some space. This sounds like setting up for a war game. The heroes cannot be more than 7 spaces away from any other hero, and no hero may be within 3 spaces of an enemy. So that's very much like starting rules for a battlefield. And there's some additional rules for being outside. Here is the standard map size, and look at that. That's big. You know, I mean, 8 by 8 by 8 hex grid as a hex. And look at this. This is the standard uniform battle arena, 13 foot by 13 foot. So to put this into perspective, a 20 foot by 20 foot room in Pathfinder 2 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. A 20 foot by 20 foot room in Pathfinder 2 would be this. Okay. A 30 foot by 30 foot room in Pathfinder 2 would be like this, right? Almost. So look how much bigger that is. That is absolutely huge, which I love. I'm for it. It's not even that big, right? It's 80 feet by 80 feet. And this just reminds me how much I love hexes. I love how they give you the total squares. Yeah, that's exactly right. 169 both times. Ooh. This is going to be our most important poll ever. Which is best? Squares or hexes? Vote now, forever hold your peace. This is it. This is the deciding vote of all time. This will determine the future. The future. Oh, look at Hexes pulling ahead. And yet they continue to give us squares. It's okay, Travis is coming in. Full Metal Dragon's coming in. Lollipop says hexagons, bestagons. Now, okay, Boothby is taking a more nuanced approach. Squares for drawing maps, hexes for actual fighting. So, of course, and I cannot stress this enough, but the advantage of the hex is that all spaces are the same distance, right? On a square grid, you either have to have weird rules that like every other diagonal square counts as 2 squares because of, the square root of 2. So 1 times the square root of 2 bonus, or 1 plus the square root of 2. So when you move orthogonally, you're moving 1 square. When you move diagonally, you're moving 1.4 squares. So when you move 2 squares diagonally, you're actually moving like 2.85 squares. Hexes, on the other hand, every direction that you move is 1 unit of distance. So it's, a lot easier. Now, of course, a lot of people say, yeah, but you can't move in a straight line in a hex. And I always think that's kind of strange, because how do you move in a straight line on a square unless you're like following one of the diagonals or the lines? I mean, isn't that the same as this? Like if I wanted to move from here, from here to here, I'm going to have to like move sideways and then up and then over. I'm going to end up moving in a weird S shape or Z shape. So it's kind of the same there. I never quite understood that one. All right. Pretty cool. Oh, here's a squished arena, right? You can create different different styles of arena, which I love. Oh yeah. When you say Hero Quest, you mean Heroescape? Here's a squished arena. Here's a long one. Look at that. Range. So if you remember, if you go back to my 4th edition, this is the type of stuff I used to talk about. This is really taking a lot of the 4th edition advice that I've always talked about, which is like how the general battle shape and size can really affect the nature of the game. So, for example, imagine you're in this type of combat or this type of room. And let's say that I'm thinking like fantasy D&D here. I'm thinking Pathfinder 2. All right. Imagine that the players are entering here at the bottom where this 9x18 is. In this fight, if we had 2 artillery monsters, right, probably parked up in the corners, it's far away to get to them, no doubt, but it's not like terribly far, right? And those artillery monsters are certainly going to have a cool advantage, especially if we have some good soldiers and bruisers and brutes and stuff like that arrayed in the middle of the fight to sort of prevent and block up, or maybe have some interesting terrain, hindering terrain, difficult terrain, hazardous terrain, etc. But it won't be that difficult to reach them. On the other hand, imagine if we were in the same fight and the party's coming in here at the bottom of this room, and you have artillery or ranged monsters near the end of this room, right? That's a very different, scary proposition. You've made those artillery, you've made those ranged attacking monsters way more powerful, which is really, really cool, I think, just by changing the nature of the battlefield, which is something I think is really underappreciated and underutilized, especially in people that really want to engage with the games on a tactical basis. So this tells me that this game is actually pretty serious about treating these things tactically. I've also never thought, and I'll be honest with you, I've been playing this game for 30 years. And, 4th edition and stuff for, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Yeah, 15. I've never once, and I played Warhammer. I played a lot of Warhammer. I have never once thought of doing a communal battlefield terrain generation. I love that idea. I think that idea is really cool. And again, I literally did it every time I played Warhammer, or most of the times that I played Warhammer, and yet never thought of doing it, not once, in a tactical game. And I kind of love it, actually. And before all the simulationist people are like, but it's not realistic. But you're ruining my immersion. Anyways, I don't think we got to the combat rules of Ryutama because my brain fell out of the bottom of my skull when we started talking about Ryujin. But, Ryutama was an interesting stream. All right, movement. Free, using an action, teleportation, swapping spaces, force movement, saving yourself. Okay. Free movement is used performing speed tokens. So you can cash in a speed token and let you move. You can only do this in the last movement phase. This is your last chance to do so before discarding 3 speed tokens during the end phase of your turn. Look, on a hex grid, moving any direction costs a speed token. If on a square grid, it costs 1 token, but moving diagonally costs 2. So now moving diagonally sucks because it costs too much. So Full Metal Dragon, that was actually also one of the games that got recommended to us as another first look option, was Fight 2nd Edition. If you have 2 tokens, you can spend 2 tokens to swap. Action movement is granted by your action. Teleportation is granted by your teleportation. So how do we get speed tokens? I suppose it will tell us how we get them, but action movement, if a movement is part of an action, we get to do that. Teleportation is granted by teleportation. We can spend 2 speed tokens to swap spaces with an ally, and then there's forced movement. The target of your forced movement may spend up to 2 iron tokens to be pushed or pulled that many spaces less than the full. So up to. So you can spend 1 or 2 iron tokens to be pushed 1 or pulled 1 or 2 less actions. Optional rule of cardboard. If you push someone into a wall, they destroy it and replace it with pub rubble, of course, naturally. As MCDM would say, or Draw Steel would say, right? Cinematic, tactical, fantasy, action, heroic. One might call it a cinematic tactical maneuver. What'd you pay for that? Did you pay gold or did you pay the iron price? I love that idea too, and I'm totally stealing it. Lastly, if you're about to be pushed, if you're basically about to be pushed off a cliff, you can spend 1 speed token and then move 1 space in any direction. This gives you a limited amount of fall control, preventing foes from having total control of your movement outside of limited free movement, so to save yourself. Hey, Aaron, thank you so much.
Aaron has tipped $5. Respect. Going panic at the dojo first stream after Dagger Week is a baller move, haha.
Aaron, that's how we do, right? It's all things in balance, the yin and the yang, the incredibly successful and popular with the very obscured and not well known. That's how we do. It's how we roll around here, Aaron. Just get used to it. Yes, we went from having 475 concurrent viewers to 50. But, hey, that's all right. You're all here, and you're appreciating it, and I love it. Okay, so here is how we handle initiative. Okay. Initiative is handled using an initiative meter with several open spaces on it. The number of slots in the meter is equal to the number of health bars in the fight multiplied by the number of sides in the fight, 2. A turn is a single slot on that meter, starting with stance selection and ending with the end phase. When a turn comes up for your team, anyone on that side could take the turn. If they haven't used their turn yet, there is no set turn order. A round is the entire run through the meter from top to bottom. Each side in the fight will get the same number of turns per round, no matter what. Turn order is not retained between rounds. Any hero who took any hero turn can take their turn in a previous round. So it's popcorn initiative. The first slot is always a hero slot. Any hero may go first. After that, the next is an enemy slot. Pick a single unit and take their slot. The next slot is a hero slot, etc., etc., etc. After their turn is another enemy slot, and like the heroes, enemy hero who has not gone there. This goes down online until all the heroes have taken a slot and all enemies have taken a slot. If there are more health bars than there are fighters, then any fighters with additional health bars will get to take extra turns. So it's popcorn initiative, but their heroes start first. So basically, it's Fab Ultima. And of course, if I had a really big badass villain, I'd probably say that they do get to take their turn first, which would be kind of cool. So pretty cool. Health bars go to 0. You go to 0. If your health bar becomes 0, it breaks and you become dizzy until the end of this turn. If this was your last health bar, you are taken out. While you are dizzy, you cannot take damage, you cannot perform actions, and you exit your stance. You cannot enter a new stance until you take a turn. You still become dizzy even if you were taken out. If an ally heals you, you will get up, but you won't be in a stance until the next time that you take a turn. While you have no stance, your range is 1. Your archetype and character and build abilities still apply, but anything in your stance, such as your form or your style or your unique, is not available to you. Becoming dizzy is especially dangerous for reversal and shadow forms, or other styles that do similar things, because you will lose your held numbers and speed tokens that you would normally get to keep. All right. Taken out. If they are at 0 HP, a hero is taken out while they are 0 HP, while they are removed from play, or while both are true. So they're out. What's the difference? Most characters removed can come back using the comeback rule. Stooges, which must be their like minions, cannot be brought back. At the start of your turn, if you are removed from play, you may pay 3 HP to re-enter the battlefield in any empty space within 3 spaces of the arena's edge. If you choose not to pay this cost or cannot pay this cost, you instead give your heroic spirit to an ally who is in play. Even if a unit is out, you can still take turns. You don't use action dice to take your own actions. You choose another player and give them the numbers you roll. They take another turn using your roll and their stance. Wow. So, okay. So you still get your turn, but somebody else takes their turn for you. And you get to tell them what you want them to do. Interesting. Even in this way, even as a battle winds down, each side still gets an equal number of turns. No, Mark Lore, it's for everybody. So when you're down to your last enemy, they still get like 6. They get 6 actions. So this means that there is no like death spiral, because even as now, I mean, there's still the advantage of maybe having more a variety of abilities. But if there were 4 enemies and they've all been taken out except for one, that one enemy is going to be able to go 4 times. Interesting. All right. So here are our basic actions. So this is what everybody can do. I guess this makes it so that just focus firing the easy target isn't always the best way to go. It changes everything about the game pretty much. Pretty much. Like all of our normal TTRPG strategies kind of go out the window here. To the point where, yeah. Basically. It actually makes it kind of useful to debuff enemies, because you're going to be fighting them regardless. Actually, it makes sense to debuff an enemy and then take out the other enemies that aren't debuffed, so that the one enemy that's left that's going to be getting multiple turns is already debuffed, so that all of those turns are then limited and mitigated. And by that way, you've sort of made your debuff on a single unit more powerful, because now that one unit is getting 3 or 4 actions worth or turns worth of actions. Using a normal logic. I don't necessarily know how that translates to this game, but it pretty much turns everything on its head. So every basic actions are, we can spend a die to do damage within range or push them. We could also throw them, which pushes them far and does a little bit of damage. Damage does a bunch of damage and pushes them. Notice, once we start doing even the moderate amount of damage, it automatically starts pushing. So there's no way to just hit somebody for a lot of damage. Once you start doing a lot of damage, you're definitely throwing them back somewhat. Or you could just full on throw them and do less damage. You can also grapple them, and you can spend up to X on your die. Remember, you're cashing in a die to do this. And you pull them into you, and you can start giving them fatigue tokens. If you stagger them, you can give fatigue tokens or weakness tokens. I don't remember what fatigue tokens do or weakness tokens. I don't know what challenge does. This lets us remove people's tokens, probably on fire or burning. Here's how we gain speed tokens. Cool. So the way speed tokens work is the way movement works kind of in Descent. When you take one of your actions to move in Descent, it gives you a number of movement points equal to your speed, and then you spend those movement points 1 for 1 to move squares throughout the course of your turn, allowing you to potentially like move 2 squares by using 2 movement points and then attack and then move another square, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of represented by this, but they don't use a formalized token system in there because they never carry over at the end of a turn. It's use them or lose them. But it sounds like in this game, there may be some benefits to having speed tokens beyond just use them or lose them. This lets us destroy obstacles by targeting them, blow up the wall, I don't know, blow up the pit. I don't know how that works quite exactly, but guard gives us armor, but temporarily. And rescue lets us heal an ally within range or heal an ally who is not in play and return them to the battlefield. And that's one of the reasons why healing somebody and bringing them back is actually pretty easy, quote unquote, because them being outside the battlefield doesn't really, I mean, they're gone, but they still get their turn. So it's kind of easy to bring people back in a sense because it doesn't matter as much. Yeah, interesting. So first, the active character chooses their stance. Then each character resolves all their start of turn abilities in any order. Then roll our action dice determined by our stance. Those numbers are added in your action pool unless you donated them with your heroic spirit. At early movement. At this time, all characters other than the active character get a chance to use free movement if they have any speed tokens. If no characters have speed tokens, skip this step. If multiple do, your allies move first in whatever order is that. And then, so every time a character takes a turn, you choose your stance, roll your dice. Then you have to go around the table and ask if anybody wants to move. Yikes. Yikes. It's pretty fiddly and pretty long lasting. Anyone have speed tokens? Yeah, I do. Do you want to spend those speed tokens? Yeah, I mean, I guess after a while of time. But remember, too, you have to track all of these tokens for every single bad guy. Yikes. Sounds horrible. And I like fiddly stuff on the player side. I don't like fiddly stuff on the GM side. That's my main problem. I got enough stuff to manage as a GM. The active player takes actions one at a time until they cannot or choose not to. Before each action they take, the active character may use free movement. After each action the active character takes, all other characters get the chance to take one reactive action. At this time, anyone with remaining speed tokens gets their chance to use free movement. Again, the active player moves first, then allies, then enemies. And lastly, end the phase. First, each character resolves all end-of-turn abilities in an order of their active player's choice. Anyone who gains speed tokens now may immediately spend them. Traps deal their damage if there's someone standing on them. Then resolve all the tokens. Burning tokens deal damage equal to the number that they hold, then discard half of them. Challenge tokens are removed if the character holding it attempted to deal damage to their challenger this turn. All characters discard 3 speed tokens, or all of them if they have less than that. And if the active player did not move from their starting space, they may discard up to 3 fatigue tokens. And finally, everyone empties their action pool. This is about doing damage and using armor and shields to block it. You can also have power tokens, apparently, which you can use to increase the damage and add push 1. But you can also spend iron tokens to reduce the damage or reduce the force movement by 2. They cannot choose both. Yada, yada, yada. When you attack somebody, there's some very weird rules. Like, there's some very niche rules in here. Like, declare your action, pay any costs required, and set the value of X, if applicable. Determine which gates you will go through, and if not all of them, determine where your action will stop. If you have poltergeist tokens and want to modify this action, you must spend them now. If an enemy whose range you are within has control tokens, they now get the option to copy, dodge, or parry your action. Like, this is some very, 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 like, nitty-gritty rules, procedural things. It does feel like you're reading the comprehensive rules for MTG. All right, so after declaring it, all right, move to attackers, declare attackers. Okay, we are in the begin attacker step. When do we get to roll to see how many dice we roll? You can never have more than 10 numbers in your action pool. Copies are replicas of yourself. Okay, good to know. We talk about what fog does. We talk about what rubble, traps, and walls do. We're not really interested about that, how they stack up. Here are all of our tokens. There are only 3 basic ones, but then we get specific ones from specific abilities. Iron, power, and speed. So we've learned that iron basically is good for reducing damage and not being pushed or pulled as much, which makes sense. I mean, the name is okay. So if we have iron tokens, we can basically cash them in to absorb damage or not get thrown around as much, which is neat. I like the idea that maybe you build up iron tokens as a way to reduce damage, okay? Which is cool. Power tokens let us increase our damage and push people around more. So we can build up a pool of power points and use those when we hit and do more damage. Speed tokens are what we use in order to move between our turns, even off our turns, potentially. It costs 1 token to move a space, 2 tokens to move diagonally, and if we move on to rubble, we get fatigue. Status tokens are burning, challenge, fatigue, and weakness. Many styles and forms will use these often. Okay, so burning tokens are being delayed damage. This is our persistent damage, okay? At the end of your turn, if you have any burning tokens, you take damage equal to the number of burning tokens you have, then discard half of them. So if we have 5 burning tokens, at the end of our turn, we'll take 5, and then we discard 2.5, round it up to 3, and that leaves us with 2 burning tokens. So then the next turn, we would take 2 damage, and we would be down to 1, and then we would take 1 damage, and it would be out. So persistent damage kind of, decays geometrically, right? Half, or, yeah, exponent. I don't know if that's geometric or exponential. I think it's geometric. So 10 becomes 5, becomes 3, becomes 2, becomes 1, becomes 0. Challenge tokens are special. You can only hold 1 challenge token at a time, and each challenge has a name attached to it. Red's challenge, for example. If you hold a challenge token, the person named in that token is your challenger. These are primarily given by the angel and punk archetypes. When an action tells you to challenge someone, it means give them a challenge token with your name on it. You cannot challenge someone who is already holding your challenge. If you're giving a challenge to token someone while you're already holding one, blah, blah, blah. When you hold someone's challenge, all of your damage-dealing actions must include... So this is taunt. Got it. So if you have a challenge token from somebody, you have to target them. In fact, actions without a damage-dealing component and actions that do not target enemies at all aren't affected, but if it does damage, it has to include them as a target. At the end of the turn, if you tried to deal damage to your challenger this turn, then you can discard their challenge, even if that damage was reduced to 0. And if your challenger ever leaves play or falls to 0 hit points, everyone holding their challenge discards it immediately. And this is really, really, really funny. And the reason why this line is really, really funny, if your challenger ever, basically if the person taunting you ever leaves play or they fall to 0 hit point, everyone holding their challenge token discards it immediately. And the reason why this is funny is because this was not the case in 4th edition D&D. If a fighter hit you, you were marked by that fighter until the end of the fighter's next turn. And so in D&D 4th edition, if the fighter marked you and then that fighter was killed or knocked unconscious, you were still marked by that fighter, getting you a -2 or a -3 or whatever, a -4 penalty to your attack roll, even though the person who marked you was now dead or unconscious or whatever. So that's, at least this is a nice little, like, somebody played 4th edition D&D and went, oh man, that is stupid. Okay, here we go. Fatigue tokens represent the status of slowing down. When you are holding any fatigue tokens, any free movement, action movement, or teleport movement you make is reduced by 2, and then you get rid of that fatigue token. At the end of your turn, if you didn't move at all, you can discard up to 3 fatigue tokens. So fatigue eats up movement, but then it also goes away as you burn through it. And lastly, weakness tokens represent lost strength, draining us of energy or emotionally compromised. Whenever you deal damage, if you are holding any weakness token, reduce that damage by 2 to a minimum of 0 and then discard 1 weakness. So, interestingly, we could be holding 4 weakness tokens, and we wouldn't reduce it by 8. It says if we're holding any number of weakness tokens, we reduce the damage by 2, and then we get rid of 1 of them. So if we had 4 weakness tokens, we would reduce our damage by 2, and then we'd have 3 left. And then we would reduce our damage by 2, and then we'd have 2 left. And we reduce our damage by 2, and then we'd have 1 left. And then we would reduce our damage by 2, and then we would finally be out of weakness. So it doesn't, like, stack up. So the number of weakness tokens you have is really more of like a duration. Yeah, it's like a clock, lollipop. I mean, this is way too fiddly for me for an RPG, but man, I can imagine so many people. I can imagine a lot of people in Pathfinder 2 and 4th edition D&D. I mean, and I like 4th edition D&D, but I can imagine so many people loving this system because it's really, really strategic and tactical, because it's not just hope you get lucky with a D20 roll. I mean, some people do like that as well, but. And then there's a bunch of different tokens all given to you by various styles and forms, and we're not going to get into all of these. Luck tokens and chaos tokens and whatever. So that's the combat rules. Overall, yes, and Matt, there's a little bit of dissent. Some of them don't work the same, and that's a little bit frustrating. Like, for example, fatigue tokens reduce your movement by 2, and then you discard 1. Weakness tokens reduce your damage by 2, and then you discard 1, which is cool. But then burning tokens work very differently. And power tokens are just +1 damage. So there's a little bit of weirdness there where like some of the tokens kind of work on the same system, but other ones don't. But that is the primary point of this game, which is to have this very tactical, very, input randomness based game. By the way, when we say input randomness, what we mean is the game still has randomness. What are you going to roll on your action dice? Like if you roll a bunch of 1s on your action dice, you're going to have a pretty weak turn. But you still get to make your decisions. But once you've made your decisions, there is no randomness to what happens. All of the decisions that get made after you make your decision just happen the way that they're supposed to. I'm going to deal 8 damage. Now, they might use their armor, they might use their shield, but again, that's a perfectly informed decision with a 100% success rate. When you attack somebody, it does damage to them. There's no chance of doing a bunch of damage or 0. If you have a dice that is, an 8, and you cash it in to do a one of these, you're going to do 4 damage and push 2. And if I use this power and I cash in a 7 or an 8 from my die pool, and then I spend 2 power points, 2 power tokens, then I'm going to do 6 damage and push 4, right? Like it is, right. It is deterministic, Sinmad, yes. Zipper Fist, I completely agree with you. Although Zipper Fist, I would argue that it's worse when people do this, exactly what you're describing, and they do it in a D20 game, and then they end up rolling a 2 and missing anyways. Like they plan this whole massive turn around like all this stuff, and then they miss anyways, and then the enemy crits, and it like completely, their whole plan doesn't matter anyways, and they still took forever to make up their fucking mind. So there's kind of at least a point to saying, well, at least it matters here. I think I like this. I do. I mean, I think it's going to be fiddly as all hell, but I mean, I think the feel that this reminds me in many ways of Descent 2nd Edition, and I like Descent 2nd Edition. That's a board game, by the way. Descent 2nd Edition uses a system or series of tokens that do different things, and then you kind of use them and burn through them, and then they get discarded or used. And then some of the different classes have their own unique tokens they use differently from other things. Like I'm looking this up online just to kind of showcase this. Like there's a class that uses the valor tokens, right? And then there's another class, the apothecary class, gets a separate set of elixir tokens, but only they use them. And then here's like a set of all of the tokens from the normal game. So you can see like the poison tokens, the cursed tokens, the stunned tokens, and like they all work a little bit differently. So I do love board games, and this is don't get it twisted. This thing that this game just described is hyper board gamey. Like this is literally a strategic tactical board game. But when you're not fighting, we've got between combat, which we know is only a very short chapter. This is where we use our skills. Yeah, kind of Lollipop, right? You have except in Lollipop, I think everyone uses that same token pool, right? They all use what's it called? It's called it's not called momentum, is it? I don't remember what it's called. But they all use the same one. I don't remember what it's called. I'm trying to look it up. Maybe somebody knows better than me. Anyways, I don't remember what it's called. Do they have all different? But don't they all gain it the same way? Don't you all? Oh, maybe you don't. Maybe you do get it a different way. But I don't remember. It's been a while. So skills seem super like flim flam and basically for as deterministic and completely like locked in as combat was. Skills outside of combat seem to be very, very loosey goosey. Skills are only used at 4 times during your debut, to get past trouble, to handle a test, or to resolve a contest. To resolve a trouble, you need a useful skill. If you have the skill, you pass. If your skill isn't helpful, you fail. That's it. So this is what we call a fortune-based system, a karma-based system, where we basically say, do you have it? Yes. Does it make sense that you could pass this? Yes. Does it? No. This is this was very common in like On the Edge and Everway by Jonathan Tweet. And it's basically just, simply put, it's really simple. Like, can you handle this? Yes. Again, it seems like it's very, very simplistic. If you fail a trouble, then you enter the next fight with 3 status tokens appropriate to what happened. That's it. And then remember, this is all about getting to the next fight as quick as possible. So it's kind of like, hey, let's just do a little bit of, story building, role playing, and then say like, okay, blah, blah, blah. Or do you have a skill that could be helpful here? And you're like, no, not really. And you're like, okay, cool. You start the next fight on fire. I don't know. If you're faced with harm, enter an appropriate stance, roll its action dice, and you have 1 turn to stop that imminent harm. If you nearly meet the criteria, take 3 damage. If you fail, you take 6 damage instead. These are not combats. It's just 1 test. That's what a test is. So, for example, a test of aggression. You must destroy an incoming danger. There is a single target with 10 hit points. At the end of this turn, if you dealt 10 damage or more, you pass the test unharmed. If you dealt 6 to 9 damage, you slow it down enough to take 3 damage. If you deal 5 damage or less, you didn't slow it down at all, take 6 damage. So this is like a great way to do, hey, a real quick like mini fight, or like punching through a wall or punching out a frenzied shark, perhaps with frickin' laser beams attached to it. Or endure a barrage of blows or stop it without going to a full fight mode, grid-based hyper combat. Yeah, seems like a fighting game story mode. Long-ass fights with a 5-minute cutscene in between them. That is exactly right. I mean, this is about as fast as you can get to it. The last thing is a contest. By the way, they give us a bunch of test examples. So tests of blocking, caution, evasion, impact, neutralization, many fists, quiet, precision. Sneaking past a guard post, avoid the searchlights, etc., etc. A test of Sisyphus. You must move something far in a short time. And then stance contests. Entirely replaced the skill-based contest in the initial release of Panic at the Dojo. Stance contests involve multiple people making simultaneous stance checks with the best result taking the win. So everybody enters a stance. And then you see who got the highest total, I guess. So this is how you do a contest, like to see who performed better at doing something. The highest result on your team. So you don't add them together. You just see who got the highest number or the highest result. So, for example, you must take down a massive beast and damage isn't going to cut it. For each competitor, there is a single target with infinite hit points. The unit whose target is holding the most status tokens at the end of the turn wins. So catch the biggest dinosaur, put down a bear, or take out Mayor Hogar during his speech. Test your might. Fencing contest. For this contest, you only need to roll your action dice for the turn. Whoever has the most matching numbers in their action pool wins. If there is a tie in the amount of matching numbers, the higher value will win. For example, 3 6s will beat 3 4s. So in this way, someone who has a lot of dice, like if they're rolling like 6 or 7 dice, they're going to have a much higher chance of getting, 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind than someone who maybe has a huge pool, or I'm sorry, a small pool, but of really big dice numbers. So like somebody with like 8 D6s in their action pool versus somebody who has like 4 D10s, the person with 8 D6s is much more likely to win a fencing contest than someone with 4 D10, if that makes sense, right? So it's more about skill. And maybe that has to do with the breakdown of how the action dice work. I don't know. We'll have to see. So let's take a look at how heroes work. All right. We pick so again, color coding. Forms are blue, actions are green, styles are red, violets are, okay. Character options, violets are purple, stances are gold, skills are orange, supermoves are pink, teal. There are 3 ways to build a hero: focused, fused, or frantic. Focused heroes are a single archetyped. They're very powerful, but they lack flexibility. Fused heroes combine 2 archetypes, and you get stances and an archetype ability from both, allowing you to create a unique blended fighting style. Frantic heroes are made by picking 3 archetypes and taking 1 style from each, then picking 3 forms. Instead of creating stances, you combine 1 archetype, 1 style, 1 form each turn, giving you unparalleled flexibility at the cost of becoming unreliable. And there's a rule here for niche protection, so don't let people pick the same archetypes and fuses and styles to make sure that people stay unique and interesting. I do not recommend choosing Frantic for your first hero, which makes sense. I think a lot of people would be better off being focused or fused. So basically, do you want to be single class or multi-class? That's kind of as opposed to like some crazy weird ass build where you take 5 different classes. 1, 1, 3. All right. Here's some advice about building a character, diversifying your stances, yada, yada, yada. A lot of other stuff here. This is the type of tactical role that you have again, this isn't mechanical, it's more advice. It's your character based off of attrition style play, growth, getting stronger as the fight goes on, a mobile damage dealer, a sort of, run in, beat face, beat down, or a saboteur, someone who's obnoxious and sort of makes it, difficult for the opponent to win. Each hero chooses a build. Your build, literally, they're not beating around the bush here. What's your build? Build represents an inherent part of you that gives you an edge over everyone else. While your stances represent combat training and techniques, builds represent your physical self and what you are as a person. So this is more of like your ancestry, kind of. When you take damage that reduces your hit points to your bleed value or less, you bleed. You can only bleed once per round. Build abilities are unblockable. So you're like, are you a big, huge, brutish character? Are you like a weird, cryptid character? Are you like the foolish character? Are you a weird freak? Are you grim? Are you a guardian character? You know, a hero, a leader, a monster, a big powerhouse, a cheat and a rat. Not necessarily literally a rat, but you know, kind of like a Benny character from The Mummy, right? And here are our archetypes. So the easy ones are cavalry. Oh shit, a rat. There's cavalry, flame tongue, punk, war dancer, angel, cyborg, gun kata, teacher, winter blossom, demon, phantom, trickster, and underdog. If you're a focused hero, here are your levels. Goes to level 10. You get more super moves, improved stances. You get bonus dice to add to your action pool, and you get bonus hit point bars. But you'll always need 5 XP to level up. Okay. Here's the fused. Here's the frantic. And here are the different forms. Blaster forms strike multiple targets simultaneously. Control forms negates or steals your enemy's attacks. Dance form flutters across the battlefield, dragging friend and foe alike with you. Iron form is immovable and unbreakable. The 1-2 form hits them again with every attack you make. The power form is unstoppable and crushes anyone who gets too close. The reversal form takes things slowly, taking their turn all throughout the round. The shadow form, it disappears in a puff of smoke, always out of reach. Song form inspires their allies, healing and buffing them all at once. Thorns form strikes back at enemies who harm you. Vigilance can survive any situation through careful threat analysis. And wild form gives you more action dice when you start to lose. Okay, here we go. Each form has 1 to 3 purple action dice. When using the form normally, these do nothing special and are simply part of your action dice, the same as your green dice. Ignore the coloration. However, freestyles, see Chapter 8, modify the action dice of the form they become attached to. They come with purple dice of their own, and these will replace all green dice from the form they attach to. I don't know what the fuck that means, but I'm not sure what a freestyle is, but so here is the blaster form. It gets a D8, a D8, and a D8. Your actions may apply to 1 extra target within range, so they can always target more people. If you add the blaster form to a style, increase that style's maximum range by 1. So depending on what style we pick, we can do 1 more range than we would otherwise be able to do. These are the abilities that we can use while we're in here. We can pay 2 hit points to amplify. Our next action this turn has its maximum range increased by 3 and apply to a different target. So if we're willing to take a couple hit points of damage, we could add an extra target and increase our range. And we're already increasing our range by 1, and we're already increasing our target by 1. So by spending a little bit of hit points, we could hit 3 people up to a +4 range, which is pretty sweet. We can do a shock wave. And then we have a skill. Remember, these are the things, the orange are what we use outside of fights. Basically magic. You have an ability that's beyond normal, like lycanthropy, telekinesis, fire magic, ghost powers. When you take the skill, write down what kind of power you have and what bullshit you can do with it. And then the GM will say, yeah, that works. And then you're fine. So yeah, this is a complexity 1. It's pretty simple. You can deal damage and you can target multiple people. Now here is a control form, which gets a D10, a D8, a D6, and a D4. And remember, too, we get all of those basic moves that we had seen earlier, right? The basic damage, the basic throw, the basic speed, the basic movement. Then we also add that form's 2 green abilities as well. So, the controller only gets, 1 additional move. Now, they give all these control tokens out, and this is a unique thing to this class. So this token only matters if someone has the control form. You know, my Blizzard Mantis style. And then we can use these control forms. Control form is the counter spell, the negate, the tech cancel of Panic at the Dojo. They are a powerful but limited resource that can copy, dodge, or parry anything that a throws your way. You just need to be within range, and the control's range boost helps with that. So we can spend our control tokens to copy an action, to make an ally immune to that action, or to negate an action and have it end immediately. So this is very much our like negator, right? Type form. We saw this earlier now, so this makes a little bit more sense that we saw before. So pretty big dice pool. I wonder what the different dice pools are. Iron form is a D8, D6, D6, D6. D6, D6, D4, D4. The power form. So this is a good example, right? So the power form gets 2 D10s, but then their third dice is just a D4. So they can't do a lot of things, but what they can do is potentially very powerful because they're rolling multiple D10s, which makes sense for somebody who has the power form. And I think the reversal form is the one that moves throughout their turn. Yeah, they take their turn. They're like all of their things are like reactions or something. Oh, here we go. So here's a shadow form. They have 6 dice, but they're all D4s. So the shadow form will never be able to do like the big powerful attacks, but they will be able to just do a little like tick, 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 tick. And this would be really good at winning one of those fencing challenges. Remember what I was talking about before about how you need to get, 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind. The shadow form is almost certainly going to roll 2 or 3 or 4 of a kind. Whereas good luck, rolling. Well, you literally can't roll 3 of a kind, right? So that's kind of a neat little piece of tech, Oh, Lord Kyler. What's up, Lord C? Good to see you. Hate to interrupt. That's okay, buddy. That's what the super chat's for. I'm not gonna turn down $25, my friend. I hate to interrupt, but saw you were streaming. Thank you. And want to jump on and boost. Thank you, Lord. Really digging the Daggerheart content and hope to see more. Watching more of you lately, VOD, than my Netflix sub. So it only feels right to support. That's fantastic. Well, I have been streaming a lot, Lord Kyler, and I really appreciate the support for that. As a side note, we did do a stream Saturday night, Friday night, Saturday night. I don't know when it was. We did do a stream Saturday night, and we had a tip goal, which was to reveal something, which got filled. And I am seriously considering doing a monthly Daggerheart zine and putting out new content for heroes, PCs, as well as for GMs. It'd probably be part of our Patreon is the initial plan of that. But, potentially looking also to work with fellow patrons who may want to, I don't know how, we can pay people or give people some sort of, obviously people would get tons of credit, but how do we make sure people are somewhat compensated for it? I mean, it's not like a full on ass business because our Patreon isn't quite that big, but, maybe there's a cool way we can make this content because I do want to support the game. And I think the game is really cool. And, we're right here at the beginning, we're interested, and I really like that. So, so stuff like some of my minor fixes, but also new classes, maybe some new adversaries, new environments, new ancestries. You pick the race. Maybe a couple little house rules or updates or tweaks or changes. And some of that will also depend on like when some of these features get released from the Daggerheart / Demi-Plane people, like the card creator and stuff like that, official card creator, because that'd be really cool to be able to make our own stuff and give people a real option for that. And so anyways, I really appreciate the support, and I'm glad to see that you're appreciating it and digging it and watching a lot of it because we did put out a lot of it. So props to anybody who's actually watched that all. So thank you, Lord. I appreciate it. Anyways, so this is kind of cool. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of the forms, but look at that. The vigilance form doesn't roll. They just get a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So they are like super consistent. That's cool. That's neat. That is neat. Vigilance form is reliability incarnate. You always know exactly what numbers you will have and can guarantee being alive to take your turn thanks to its start of turn heal. And if you don't need the heal, you can get rid of pesky store thing. Wow, that is cool. There's no 5. You just take a 5. Cool. That is a fun and what a neat way to do that. That's awesome game design. That is excellent game design. And it feels so right for this, especially for this type of feel. All right. Like, I don't know how we steal this, but like, this is great design. And I'm like already thinking like, oh, like maybe we could do some Daggerheart thing that's kind of based around this idea. This is cool. This is great. This is cool design for a very tactical game. Remember how we talked about input randomness versus output randomness? This is no randomness. You just know what you're going to be able to do on your turn every time. That is really cool for this particular type of class or form. Very cool. Then we get the archetypes. Remember, our focused heroes choose 1, our fused heroes choose 2, and frantic heroes choose 3, but it's wild and it's crazy. So, in addition to our style, we have our archetype. The angel, the cavalry, the cyborg, the demon, the flame tongue, the gun kata, phantom punk, teacher, trickster, underdog, war dancer, and winter blossom. So this gives us this is the other side of our, character. And then they give us recommendations for our stances because, sorry, I'm trying to find the stances. There's a lot of stuff here. Holy shit. We're just in gun kata here. It doesn't look like there's a bookmark to this. I just want to make sure I'm not crazy here. Yep, Winter Blossom. Okay. There's 13 archetypes in Panic at the Dojo, each with 5 styles of their own. That's 65 styles. But each of those are locked behind a specific archetype. So the freestyle is, okay, freestyle just lets you pick whatever styles you want. Okay, I want to know what that was. So, for example, if we are a Winter Blossom, then we get to pick 3 styles from the Winter Blossom. So we could pick the Avalanche style, the Crystal style, the Frozen, and I guess they're not completely finished here in the beta, so there's a little bit of stuff missing here as opposed to the full game. But remember, we're going to combine that with our, I already forgot what they're called, but our form to make our stance. So form plus style equals a stance. Long story short, there's a lot of complication to these characters and an unbelievable amount of creativity. Because in addition, every war dancer is going to get these abilities, okay? But you're going to have different forms and you're going to have different styles than every other war dancer. So even 2 war dancers may look very different. One war dancer may have artistic style and overwhelming style and relentless style, and you might have relentless style, swift style, and weightless style, and you would have different forms, so you're doing things differently. You could have a war dancer who is vigilant, but you could also have a war dancer who is, well, anything else. So that is very interesting. I mean, I don't necessarily want to look through all of these different abilities because there's a lot here and kind of not what this stream's about. It's a first look. Only to say, if this stuff seems like it is really good at interacting with the battlefield, interacting with the foes, interacting with your allies, like, look at this reminds me of playing it reminds me of playing Descent, but it also kind of reminds me of playing Gloomhaven. Like if you ever played the Cragbound, the Savas Cragbound, is that what it's called? The Cragheart. The Cragheart's like the coolest class in the core Gloomhaven. And like you get to like make walls and like make terrain and like control the battlefield. Like, look how cool this is. Like if you have this avalanche style, at the start of your turn, you may place up to 3 walls into empty spaces. You can see and target enemies through walls. So not only do you get to create walls, you can see through these walls and target enemies through these walls. At least you can. So that's 3 squares. But then you could use one of your dice to do the walled in move. Place up to 3 walls within empty spaces. If you cash in a 6, you could place up to 3 walls into empty spaces within range of 1 to 3. Then you may swap spaces with 1 wall. So you get to place 3 walls, 3 squares of walls at the start of your turn. And then if you cash in a 3, you get to do 3 more walls. So that's 6 spaces. So you could like literally have an enemy that's against the edge of the battlefield, and you could go and just lock them into your wall. Now, to be fair, this game literally has an ability to let you break through and punch through walls. So it's really cool. And the reason why this is cool is because if you've ever played Pathfinder 2, then you know how powerful Wall of Stone is, assuming you play it at a high level. And you know how broken Wall of Stone is because there's no save for it. And then the way that the object targeting rules work, it's really pain in the ass. In fact, the way the object targeting rules in Pathfinder 2, it's not entirely clear that you can attack a Wall of Stone. But anyways, and they actually nerfed it a little bit in Remaster, a little bit, because it used to be really, really difficult to get like a large or a huge creature to break out of a Wall of Stone. Point is, this is a game where you could probably more easily punch your way out, but I love the idea of a character who literally ices someone in and they're locked in and they can just do this really quickly. There's no random roll for it. You just put the squares, do where you want it. I think that's awesome. And then once you lock people in behind your walls, you could cash in an icicle fall and do 1 damage to each enemy adjacent to any of your walls. So you could scatter your walls all over the battlefield and then trigger a bunch of icicle falls and hit them for a bunch of damage. Or if you could cash in a 7 or higher action die, not only do you deal 2 damage, but you get a weakness token. So you can actually debuff the entire enemy squad, and that's just from this style. And you get multiple styles and multiple forms. And that's just me kind of not geeking out, but talking about this, Avalanche style is the ultimate defensive combat style, building a wall to hide behind while you continue to strike out at your foes. Your defensive fortifications will never fall, probably. Right, and, Lollipop, you get all the normal basic actions that you get to do. You can attack people, you can throw people, you can do all that stuff. So, yeah. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, this is probably one of the better tactical art. I use the term RPG to be fair here, really loosely. This is an RPG. I'm saying this, and I'm saying this with love. This is an RPG the way that Diablo is an RPG, right? It's an action RPG. It's the way an MMO is an MMO RPG. Yes, you are playing a character. You are playing a role of a martial arts fighter badass, but this is really a fighting game, as far as I can tell. I paid $15 for the PDF. Keith. It is a platinum bestseller on DriveThruRPG. Hold a sec here. I actually put the affiliate link in the description. There we go. It should be in the description. They are currently working on a 2nd edition. So we are looking at kind of a pseudo beta here of the 2nd edition, but it's 288 pages. And it is $15.95. So $16. And I like that. Obviously there's a lot of complexity to this game. So I like that they tell you, hey, this thing is less complex or more complex. But I also like that they give you recommendations, so you don't just have to make this stuff up. Oh, we didn't actually look at since we looked at the Avalanche style. By the way, remember the Winter Blossom gets 5 different styles. They get Avalanche style, Crystal style, Frozen style, Heartless style, Pressure style, and we get to pick 3 of those 5. So, anyways, but then all Winter Blossoms also get Focused Winter Blossom. At the start of your turn, give 1 weakness token to 1 enemy within range of you or one of your copies. Fused, so that if you're a focus, that means you only can be Winter Blossom. A fused Winter Blossom gets at the start of each allied turn. Oh, Focused Winter Blossom gives at the start of every turn, not just your turn. I think that's what that's saying. Because obviously a focused Winter Blossom, right, is more powerful than a fused, because a fused gets 2 archetypes and a focused only gets 1 archetype. So let's see. Your style is calm, controlled, precise, and icy. Their fighting style revolves around controlling and weakening enemies, reducing them to a helpless mess that cannot fight back. It is a controlling archetype that shuts down your foes, similar to the Angel. But while the Angel buffs themselves into being untouchable, the Winter Blossom weakens their foes into uselessness. The Winter Blossom has no problems against other defensive and controlling foes, winning wars of attrition with ease. But aggressive enemies are a problem, as they can dish out damage faster than you can stop it. A 1/2 form is especially bad for you, as its users can remove 2 weakness tokens per attack. But if you can pile on the weakness, remember, weakness tokens make them do less damage. Anyways, so a Winter Blossom basically is just going to be handing out weakness tokens all over the battlefield automatically. And they also have this basic ability. 1+ or 3+ or 5+ or 5A+, Frostbite. Give 1 weakness token to an enemy within range. If you cash in a 3 or higher, give 1 weakness token to a different enemy within range. Give it up to 2 enemies within range. Give 1 weakness over to 3 enemies within range. I don't understand the difference between these two. I'm not sure I quite understand this. Give 1 weakness to, I mean, it is the beta. Maybe there's a weird wonkiness here. Oh, I see. They stack. Okay. Got it. Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, by the way, I was right. Focused and frantic Winter Blossoms give out a weakness turn at the start of every turn, not just yours. Each ally's turn and each enemy's turn. If there are any enemies within your range, then you will give them 1 of your weakness tokens. So yeah. So this definitely wants to be throwing out copies then, so you can have presence all over the battlefield. I don't know how you would throw out copies, but... Oh, here we go. The Crystal style. The Splintered Mirror ability places a copy into an empty space within range, and you can swap spaces with that copy. So you can just keep making copies of yourself with the Crystal style. So now you've stacked yourself up all over the battlefield, you and your crystalline forms. So then every time a turn starts, you're giving 1 weakness token to 1 enemy within range of 1 of your copies and start just... Pretty sweet. Pretty cool. I also like where I'm like, well, I don't know how you're going to get those copies. Oh, yeah, never mind. Here we go. By the way, the first time each turn one of your copies is destroyed, you may place a copy within range of your original. So even if they blow up your copies, you get to recreate at least once a turn a new copy. Pretty cool. Frozen style lets us take a little bit more damage because we can gain iron tokens, which we can cash those in to absorb damage. The Heartless style is whenever we give tokens to an enemy, we heal. So by spreading out all that by spreading out all that weakness, we can also heal ourselves. Pretty sweet. The Pressure style. At the start and end of your turn, each enemy within range must pay 1 hit point, then gain 1 weakness. This is our big finisher. Once your enemies are drowning in status tokens, apply finishers will destroy them. Because apply pressure, if we cash in a 7 or higher, target an enemy within range. Deal damage them equal to the number of status tokens they hold up to a max of 12 ability. Usable only once a turn. So this is the way that after we've stacked a ton of fatigue and weakness and just debilitating tokens on an enemy, we can finally cash that in and do damage. This is the kind of game where you have 10 different actions and passives and just forget to use most of them. Mark Lore, yes. But this isn't a game. I mean, if you don't want a super hyper crunchy combat game, this is not that game. You know? Yeah, Ludo. 10 trillion %. Not just 100%. I mean, you need to have people who are in it for the tactical miniature game, right? The type of people who spend 10 hours on Path Builder, tweaking their build and looking for cool feat interactions, right? If these are the people who barely know how the game works, there's no point playing. This is just going to make their head explode, And rightfully so. It should make their head explode. I love the idea of doing this like, in fact, I already have an idea. I'm already like, okay, I want to create a Knights of Last Call arena league. Like, WoW, right? Like a 3v3, right? Maybe like a 2v2, like, you know, what were the different arenas? Was there a 2v2 and a 3v3 in a WoW? Was there a 5v5? I don't think there was a 5v5. And I would have people form teams, and then we would have like tournaments, and people would like play each other and, you know, try to fight each other. And they like they would be timed, and something where we'd have different tournament goals, and you'd have to achieve it. And it's like, I wouldn't be a GM, right? Yeah, there would be a referee, Ludo. There would be a referee. I wouldn't want to play this as an RPG. I would want to play this as a competitive WoW arena. Because not Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds is like where you fought the other side, but it was like, you know, like more of like a battle. What was I'm trying to see what I never played arena. And WoW. Like people could have like different matchmaking ratings and stuff like that, different like level scales. You could kind of do it as a MOBA reskin, kinda. Yeah, like it would be like a MOBA reskin, but it would be just the team battle part of it, you know? Welcome to the Discord Dome. Yeah, 2v2 and 3v3. Yeah, I think that would be cool. Oh, solo 2v2 or 3v3. I think that'd be pretty sweet. And like I said, and the way we'd work is we would use like a chess timer. So each team would have a certain amount of time. And then like we would, I don't know, we'd have to have some way that you could talk to your team or something like that. But like when it's your turn on the clock, right, your team's clock is ticking down. And then as soon as your turn is finished and it goes over to the other team's turn, their clock starts. And like maybe each team, you know, gets an hour total. And, you know, if your team runs out of time before the other team, you lose the battle. Or whichever team completes the objective first, if it's last man standing, or if it's king of the hill, or if it's some objective based or zone control or something like that. And then, you know, if you win, you win. Otherwise, if, you know, that way you could set it and be like, this will take 2 hours max. And that's in a situation where one team used 59 minutes of their clock and the other team used an hour of their clock, right? And then that's it. And I feel like that should be enough time. I don't know. Maybe you could even play it faster potentially because there's not really the kind of dice rolls that you would have. Now I want to run that. I want to create this, and I want to create this on my Discord. I think there'd be people who would play this. Now, people are telling me that Fight 2nd Edition is a better fighting game, which is possible, but maybe they just mean it's a better RPG. To be completely clear, I don't really think this is a good RPG. It's a really cool combat system, but the RPG element was sort of like, do you have the skill? Yes. Cool. You succeed. Do you not have it? No. All right. Enter the next fight with 3 tokens. That's literally what, I'm not making that up. That's literally what it said. And they're like, let's get back to the fighting. But the game was unapologetically about this and just said, this is a game about fighting. So, and then this is chapter 8 freestyles, is if you want to like literally make everything up and mix and match and create whatever you want and, you know, choose from everything. But I think you lose a lot of like the fun of the game by doing that. And then this last section is all about making enemies, which I'm going to mostly skip because it's already past 9 o'clock and I'm already not interested in rolling this as a thing. I'm interested in running it as a PvP arena system. It's cool though. I think it's very flip, you know, like I said, it's got some elements of Gloomhaven. It's got some elements of Descent 2nd Edition. It's got some 4th Edition elements to it. I love the input randomness. I think it's pretty cool. Plus, too, like the PvP, like you could create a whole, or, you know, like we could have an intro section, right? Where like you have the arena. Oh man, like you could have different battles, right? You know, like, oh, we're going to fight in this arena. That this arena has a lot of walls and this arena has a lot of things. And that might like change who you bring in and what characters you bring in. Like, I don't know. It's cool. I think this is, I think it's kind of neat. Yeah. So Panic at the Dojo by Velmini. She has created, I'm assuming Vel is a she, maybe not. I don't know. they set out to create a game where you are going to be fighting. And they are still working on the game 6 years later, trying to clean it up, which is totally cool. And this is about the characters, you know, fighting. And they even say, let's get back to the fights. And that is what the game is about. Lollipop says, make the finals a best out of 3. I did see one of the tournament play. When you have a sanctioned official fight, it is played as a best of 3 or best of 5. There are no hazards allowed in the ring through 3 placement. All the hazards are placed by the organizers of the event, right? So like, you know, that, which is awesome, right? Like the neutral GM creates the tournament. At the start of each round, everyone is placed in set positions with each side equidistant from each other. Every single player will always return to the same position at the start of each round, returning to play if they had been removed. If anyone on either side is removed from play by going outside the ring, their side loses the round. If 2 or more units on one side are reduced to 0 hit points, their side loses the round. If you reach the end of a round without any side losing the round, that round is a draw and the fight continues. Instead of resetting and healing, simply continue into a new round as normal for the fight. Once a side loses 2 or 3 rounds, the fight is over and the other side wins. Anyways. Borgie, looking good, sir, with your blue crown. Thank you so much. There's a lot to track, Keith, but honestly, if you pick, the game does talk about lower complexity stances and forms. So like, let's take a look here. Scroll all the way down. I wish that the PDF had a Val, if you're listening, please. I mean, I understand it. It's the beta. So probably the original one does have one. Yeah. Okay. The original one does have a bookmark. Okay. It's just because it's in beta. Totally acceptable. Here, I'm going to go in here. So if we look at the forms, this is the original version, by the way. Or the archetype. Here we go. So like the cavalry, you know, their style is they get to move extra, you know? And I'm not saying that that's like a bad thing. I'm just saying, hey, they get to move 2 squares. You know what I mean? Like this is a complexity 1 archetype. So I think this is a lot easier to manage than the Winter Bloom, which we were looking at before, which is if it's the start of anyone's turn and they're within range of you or one of your crystal shard copies, you can hand a weakness token out, right? Like you could see how there's an escalation in complexity there. So you could create something like the charging style, or I'm sorry, you could create something like a cavalry person and take like something like the charging style. And I think you could really rein in the complexity rating of it as well, you know, or the overall difficulty. So I think you could. Now, to be fair, I still don't think it's a fantastically great RPG because there's not a lot of mechanics for the actual like narrative elements of the game or like components of the game. It really seems to be more about the fighting and sort of creating a loose structured narrative around what are essentially, it's giving you know what this game is doing? You could just have, hey, let's just have these fights, which is fine. But some people want to have a loose structure built around it, right? The aforementioned 3-minute cutscene to kind of give it a little bit of glue to make it stick together so it doesn't feel like you're literally just playing a pointless skirmish game. So I can appreciate that, right? I can appreciate the whole, like, we want to do, or maybe you want to do a co-op version of it. So the GM can play the bad guys, the players can play the good guys, and, you know, you get to fight some monsters, and here's a loose narrative scene, and then cool, let's have another cool fight. Really what we want to do tonight is come over to your house and have, like, 3 cool fights, right? Like a intro fight, another, an intro fight, a slightly bigger fight, and then a big bang, huge drawn out fight. Cool, to end the night. And we just want to have fun, and we just want to have fights, and we want to do our cool things, and we want to knock people through walls. It's the way that Gloomhaven, in its way, is like an RPG. You know, 99% of Gloomhaven is here's the hex map of the mission, and go and move your piece on your turn, and, you know, punch and take damage. It is far too complex to be a beer and pretzels game sipper. I think if you became drunk, this would be problematic to play at best. But what's fun about that, though, is like you could have somebody who really, you know, they want to fight. and they want to help and they want to participate. And so they choose the cavalry archetype, and they get, charging style, and they get heroic style, and, they get a couple of basic, styles. But then you have another player. I don't know if we do here. Another player is like, I like super duper intense, complex shit. I'm the super nerd of this group who, knows all the rules and knows all the, features. And I want like something that's really, really insane. Okay, cool. You could become a darkness or a demon, and you've got chaos tokens, and you're placing fog on the battlefield. And then you can spend your chaos tokens to do chaos stuff, and, all sorts of weird token exchanges and teleportation. They can take actions outside of their turn by using their chaos tokens. They need to keep track of the best time to use their tokens, because interrupting at a key time can mean the difference between defeat and doubt. That is a much more complicated set of circumstances than I can move. So I appreciate that, Oh, Nick, it sounds exactly like, to be fair, Nick, PBX was an evolution of Northman Challenge. They were one and the same thing, really. Northman Challenge was just a official Northern Reaches sponsored PBX. But yes, Nick, it is basically Northman Challenge and PBX. Like if you were to do, hey, we're going to do a battle and a brief skill challenge, and then another battle, and then a brief skill challenge, and then one final battle. That is what I think this game is. And so it's very much for people who like PBX, for people who like Northman Challenge. I know that doesn't mean anybody to anything except for my patrons. But yes, if it's like Northman or PBX, then yes, exactly. But with Gloomhaven, at least there's progression. New cards, trim out the -1 for your deck. Now, to be fair, I do enjoy getting the new cards and, fiddling with your deck, and changing your your to hit deck. But we do see here where are the level up rules. There is advancing. I don't know where the leveling up is. Page 101 in the beta. Thank you. Like literally right there. Okay, so when you level up, GM Scott, you do get improved abilities. You get to choose a super move. You get to choose additional stances. You can improve your focus. I'm not quite sure what that means. You can start re-rolling your action dice. You gain additional action dice in your pool. Obviously, you get some more hit points as well. So, there's some advancement. It's not quite like Daggerheart or like Gloomhaven, where you're like, oh, cool. What fun little card am I going to choose next? So yeah, GM Scott, there's definitely some element of RPG element as well, so I appreciate that. It is an RPG. I'm just saying it is an RPG in a very, very, it's an RPG. It's like, in my opinion, it's like one notch or two notches above Gloomhaven as an RPG. Like there is nothing that stops you from playing Gloomhaven. You have some of these Gloomhaven characters have more personality and backstory than a lot of D&D and Pathfinder characters that not only that I've played with, but that I have played in my life. But every time I've played Gloomhaven, and I've played Gloomhaven 3 campaigns, not all of them to completion, but I've played 3 different campaigns. I don't think anyone ever roleplayed once. You could totally talk in character and be like, I am the Savas Craighart, and I will defeat these ratlings because they destroyed my village. But no one ever does. So I view this as being like one notch, above that. For sure. Sorry, I was putting my. Yeah. I mean, about Kingdom Death, right? Which is also very focused on let's have the really cool boss fight, right? Which is also, you know, I mean, again, it's something that, you know, when we ran Northern Reaches, we had a type of game that honestly has become known now as an arena, but we used to be called Monster Hunt Extreme. And the idea was the GM picked one single, very difficult and extreme encounter, and it was like one big scary monster, almost like a raid boss, basically. And then the players had, that was the whole session. It was designed to be very short, you know, under 90 minutes or something under, you know, so that for people who didn't have enough time to sit down and play a 3 or 4 or 5 hour session, you know, you get to, most of your character abilities in Pathfinder 2 are based around fighting and combat. Makes sense. That's kind of what the game's about in its own way. See, like a game like this is at least very unapologetically like, this is a game about combat. All the abilities are about combat. You know, and so then you play Pathfinder 2, it's like, this is a game about the imagination and storytelling. And you're like, cool, show me all the imagination and storytelling abilities. You're like, nah, it's all combat. And you're like, wait, huh? What? So, yeah, I mean, I appreciate that for the, you know, I appreciate it for that reason. So I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, you know, it took me a minute. There's a lot of moving parts, but I've played enough of these games that, you know, it kind of started to click in pretty quick. The only mistake I made is that I thought maybe you could combine lower action dice to, and maybe that's some ability that some archetype or class gets, but like if I don't roll a 7, then can I use a 3 and a 4 to make a 7? And then sure, I'll get less actions overall, but at least I could like cash in to try to do that one powerful thing. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's, no, Pathfinder 2 is skill feats. Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, I think Lollipop says it's a big G gamist, you know, this is the simulationist here is like 1, the narrativeness here is like 1, and the gamist here is like 10. Like, it's like, you know, it's very, 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 it's very, very, very gamey, which is okay. I mean, if you really want a cool fighting game, I personally, like I said, I think this would be awesome as a sort of a PvP arena, you know, like almost like a fighting, like again, like a World of Warcraft 2v2 or 3v3 arena team series, and then you have a tournament series, and you know, you accumulate rating and points by fighting different things and entering different tournaments, and you know, choosing and building and having a progression system tied to the season, and you know, working with your teams to create like the most powerful combinations that you can and trying to win, you know, actually using all of these complex overlapping rules, not just for, you know, fun and lulls, but to actually, you know, make a fighting game out of this fighting game, which is pretty cool. I mean, in theory, you could even do that without a GM, because I think all the rules here are deterministic. There's no ambiguity. I mean, it's probably good to have a referee just in case to sort of oversee it, but yeah. I mean, just straight up, right? Like we talked about the simplicity, you know, the blaster, I mean, their actions can apply to an extra target, and by taking 2 hit points, they can increase the range again and apply additional target. So they could just do a basic attack, you know, and hit 3 people with it. And so, like, if they rolled an 8, okay, and again, I don't know, you know, I don't know all of the ways that you can add stuff to your dice pool or modify your dice pool or do all that other stuff. But like, if we go up to basic actions, they can't quite pull off the 9, but you know, they could do 4 damage to 3 people at, you know, at range. That's pretty good. You know, like their range is like 5 or 6 squares or something like that. So they're just like, you know, I don't know, some sort of big, huge telekinetic burst thing. A fire burst doesn't really matter. The flavor is whatever you want to flavor it. Oh, and they get pushed. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. And I'm sure that's just one part of it. You could stack that with other things and combine that with other things, and you know, yeah, you can't double up. Okay, for example, yeah, right, because you're gonna combine that form with different styles. So, like, imagine if we we're a cyborg. So cyborg can so we already know we can spend power tokens to boost the damage that a hit deals. But this also gives burning tokens to those hits. So now we can, you know, not only do extra damage, we can all light people on fire because we're a cyborg. We're an armored blaster, right? That's our stance. We could call it the armored dragon stance, right? So, because we could use armored for our style, and then one of the alternative names for blaster is the dragon. So you could be like, I'm in the armored dragon stance, right? And you're like a cyborg. Your arms transform into like, you know, flamethrower cannons, and you're just like, and then when you supercharge it, you light everybody on fire, and you're hitting a bunch of people. I don't know. It sounds pretty cool to me. It'd be fun. Anyways, that's how I would use this game. I don't know. I mean, we have almost 500 people as part of our Patreon now. So like doing stuff like this becomes more available, you know, as we kind of get bigger people. I mean, for a long time we were, you know, very small channel, so we didn't have a ton of people. I mean, you need people to want to participate and do stuff. The challenge with this stuff like this is always like, what is your VTT, and, you know, how do you manage the tokens and the system and all that other stuff? Like, that's always the challenge, you know, with that kind of stuff. Again, I don't do reviews here because I obviously haven't played this game, but I love its input randomness. I love the variety of combination of abilities. It uses these tokens to kind of create both buffs and debuffs, which is very much in line with how the way that Descent 2nd Edition did it. And I was a big fan of the way Descent 2nd Edition ran. If this person was not influenced by Descent 2nd Edition, I would be really shocked. And again, some elements of Gloomhaven there as well. The game not only the game explicitly supports hex-based play, which I love. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So I don't know that there's much of an RPG here, but you know what? A lot of people don't really play RPGs except for the big fights anyways. So why not? Fuck it. Yeah, so I like it. I don't know. I mean, it's a big book, but that's just because it's chock full of basically character build options. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think it has 12 forms. I think it has like 14 archetypes, each of which has 5 unique styles. It's like 60 something styles, and they can be combined with any number of 12 forms. I mean, that's like 700 different right? Over maybe close to 700 different possible combinations. That's a lot. And then that's assuming you're focused. Remember, some characters can actually have 2 archetypes. So, yeah. And technically, there's the freeform rule. If you really just wanted to like be anything from anything, and now you can combine styles across archetypes for complete nonsense and wildness. But I think it's cool. I think it's really interesting, and it'd be cool too to see like if you were building this to be competitive. And by the way, remember, maybe you don't necessarily know what the objective is, like, because you could build for damage, but then what if you enter the tournament, right? And you enter the tournament, and it turns out that this tournament is it's not about last man standing. What if it's here we go. What if it's a secure tournament, a secure mission, because remember, in these ones, everybody just heals at the start of the turn. So even if you like take everybody out, they're just going to heal and come back. So like, if it's doing that type of thing, like your ability just to like, burn and do damage might not be enough, right? Or like, what if it's like this is basically Counter-Strike, counter terrorist win. But yeah, Jim Scott, not gonna lie, they lost me in the first half, but it turned out to be interesting overall. Yeah, I don't know that I'm like chomping at the bit to play this. Again, I'm in my I'm in my kind of I'm off grid-based combat era. But I know a lot of people are, and I'm always like, you know, if you're going to really, if that's what really interests you about the RPG, there's better skirmish rule sets out there than D&D or Pathfinder. So why don't you, you know, I don't know, play one of those? I don't know. Maybe there are some balance issues with this game. Obviously, I have no idea about that, but, you know, it's pretty interesting, you know? But, yeah, I think that's, well, Lollipop, in a 3v3, that would never be the case. But, yes, in a normal situation, it would be. Kindler, gentler, Derek. Yeah, maybe I'm in a good mood, Todd. Again, I did say I think this barely qualifies to be considered a TTRPG. I mean, and I don't mean that in like a terribly evil way, even though I never mean anything in a terribly evil way. I'm simply saying that but this game is unapologetically like, this is a game about fighting. When the fight's over, remember it even said, when the fight's over, you know, have the players encounter a trouble or a contest, and then if that creates problems, that'll lead to another fight. And it said, and in the event that the players deal with all their troubles and they win all their contests, have a fight anyways, because that's what this game is about. It literally said that. So, okay. But even like Daggerheart, right? Which everyone's like, it's a narrative game. It's like PBT story time. No, Daggerheart said it's a game about dramatic moments between characters and fights. That's what Daggerheart said it was about. So at least these games are being very forthright about it. And again, a lot of your cool, fun Daggerheart cards are for fighting and for combat. Not all of them, but a lot of them. For sure. So. Well. So that's going to do it for Panic at the Dojo. Again, it's not a review, but I like it. I think it's got some really cool fighting combat. It's very fiddly. I like that the game could be complex, more complex or less complex, depending on what you choose and what you build. I think a lot of people would find this to be overwhelming, but for people who really love a good, you know, tactical war game, I think you'd enjoy it. I mean, like for me, managing those tokens and stacking up weakness tokens on opponents and fatigue tokens, that sounds awesome to me, to Derek. If I'm playing like a grid-based game, like that's what I would rather be playing, because that feels much more, you know, interesting to me than these games where I'm like, hey, I get to take my turn and I move and I swing the dice and I miss, and it's like, and then my turn is over, you know? Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fun. And again, for me, even as I say that, remember that I used to play competitively at tournaments, at Gen Con and Origins. I used to play the D&D miniatures game, which was a game that used the rules of, it was an official game that used the rules of Dungeons and Dragons as a miniature skirmish game. And you had 200 points to build your army, and they had all these different pre-painted miniatures that have different cards that had different stats on them with different point costs. And you could put together a war band of up to 12 miniatures, minimum 3, maximum 12. Each miniature cost more or less points. And then you battled it out, and it was a they go, you go. Actually, it was you got 2 activations. Well, you rolled initiative, and then it was like you got 2 whoever won the initiative got 2 activations, and then the other side got 2 activations, and then 2 activations, 2 activations, 2 activations, 2 activations. And then obviously once a side ran out of activations, the other side got to keep going. Which is not the case in this game, actually. So that's kind of already way kind of because again, you could start to steamroll people pretty quickly. Like if you were fairly evenly matched, let's say they had 8 people, you had 9 people, and they got lucky and they got a couple crits or something like that, and suddenly you were down to like 5 people. Well, they still had 9 people. They could take 9 activations a turn, and you only got to take 5 activations a turn. It could start to snowball pretty quickly. But this game, you still have, even if you get taken out, right, you can use your action die pool with a different character. So that's kind of interesting in that respect. Yeah, I think that's, anyways, Tim and I used to go to Gen Con. We'd play in tournaments like this, and it was fun. It was a cool game. I mean, you know, it was D&D 3rd edition, basically. You know, your square, line of sight, range, fireball, lightning bolt, melee attack, smite evil, the whole 9 yards. and you were trying to get victory points. But anyways, so I would play it. I would much rather use this game like that, like where it's basically like a WoW PvP arena, or someone said like a MOBA, but it's like a team fight in the MOBA, not the grinding critters in the lane or whatever. It's just like the big team fight, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I mean, it's $16. They're working on a second edition. It sounds like they won't even let you buy a physical copy right now because they're like, look, we're trying to fix this up for a second edition, so physical sales are disabled. But you can buy the PDF, which includes, I'm sure, any updates once the actual second edition goes live. And then also all the content in this book is released under Creative Commons. So that's pretty cool. It'd be interesting. I should run this. I don't know about running it. Again, Keith, I have so many games that I need to run. I need to run Daggerheart. I need to run Daggerheart. I want to run Daggerheart. I need to run Daggerheart. I want to run Fabula Ultima. I want to run the One Ring second edition. What other games do I want to run? So many games. Those are like nearer-ish to the top, I think. Avatar Legends is up there too. Legend of the Five Rings, I'd like to get that back out again. God, I'd love to play Earth Dawn again. Shadow Dark or some sort of basic D&D type game. I'm running Torchbearer now. That's been good. So I've been able to scratch that itch pretty significantly. Again, I'm a little off the grid-based combat. So like things like 4th edition and Pathfinder 2nd. Plus I'm playing in a Pathfinder 2nd edition game, so I'm not like super into that right now to run it. Not Mouse Guard or Burning Wheel because we're playing Torchbearer. I wouldn't mind playing Forbidden Lands again, or a game similar to it. Although One Ring might be able to scratch that itch well enough. Yeah. Lots of stuff. Oh, I forgot about Mythic Bastionland. Luckily, one of my patrons is running, I think, a game of it at Origins, and I'm going to try to play in it. But I would love to run it. That'd be cool. Yeah, I forgot about Mythic Bastionland. Technically, I don't have that physically yet. So, like, I don't really view it as being real. Like, I have the early release of the PDF because of the Kickstarter or whatever, but yeah. Also, yes, I need to run that Hackmaster game demo. Show you guys how it's really done, how a real Ultimate game works. So, very cool. All right, well, I think that's going to be it. Only 2.5 hours. I know we're used to our 6-hour Daggerheart streams, but, we got to get back to normal at some point. I got to give you guys back your lives. But again, definitely stay tuned. If you're interested, I still, amongst many other goals that I have with this channel, and there are many, my two main things that I would like to continue to focus on are doing first looks at new games, continuing to talk about GM ideas, GM, advice, even maybe some player-based advice. And then I would love to continue to do content for Daggerheart, which would up to and including, like I said, producing some sort of actual monthly product that could be released as part of our Patreon, and people could get new classes, new ancestries, new domains, new subclasses, new magic items, new adversaries, new environments, the whole shebang. Maybe new campaign frames. And then also Shadow Dark. And this is cool because these two games are, at least for right now, somewhat popular, and I happen to like them. So, but for this, my main focus has been Shadow Deep, Project Shadow Deep, which is my mega dungeon creation that I want to do for Shadow Dark. I want to create a mega dungeon called Shadow Deep and maybe do a Kickstarter and actually get it published and printed in a cool book format. That would be a life dream of mine come true. So between, my main focus for these games, which are quote unquote more popular games that we talk about, is vis-a-vis, these. Am I going to take a look at start? Oh, absolutely, Todd. I mean, we're playing with half of the classes in our Pathfinder 2 campaign are Starfinder 2nd edition classes. So, George is a soldier. Bob is a mechanic. No, yeah, that's it. It's 2. And then Bob is a Kasatha, a Borai Kasatha, and George is a android. So Tim is an intelligent magical item, Magus. Kaz and I are both Eldamon trainers. I am an intelligent nanite swarm a la slime as my ancestry, and Kaz is a living dungeon. So a little bit that's where the Battles of Bestiary stuff comes in. But we basically, there's I would say 30 to 40% of our campaign is Starfinder 2nd edition, including the stuff that Smith is using. So all off the beta. So when it fully comes out at Gen Con, we'll definitely be taking a look at it. You said, damn. It's a sick party. That's true. There is another stream tomorrow. Yeah, but I mean, again, we're probably going to talk Shadow Deep tomorrow, I imagine. But we'll see what the patrons want to do. It did get a pretty good vote today. Oh, Keith, we're definitely going to be talking about new games. I think that's an important part of what this channel can do. And I think, we talk about games. I think there's a couple of people out there who obviously talk about new games. Dave Thomavore, I think, does a really great job of it. Ben Milton over at Questing Beast does, but I think his definitely skews more OSR, right? So I think I don't think there's many content creators who are really highlighting a whole array of new games, Quinn's great, but Quinn produces 3 videos a year. So maybe 4 videos a year or something like that. It's his rate of production is pretty slow. And, a lot of the games that Quinn is showing are really old games. Not saying that this is obviously 7 years old technically, so it's totally fine. But Quinn is I want to play, Middle Earth role-playing game or Star Wars D6. All right, I'm going to play that for 4 months as a campaign and then make a 40-minute video about it. That's awesome, but, I don't know if that's really, being able to keep up with the rate of games that are coming out. Because, there's obviously popular, quote-unquote, popular. Oh, yeah, Seth's good too, yeah. There's obviously popular games that are going to be coming out that people are going to want us to look at. Right, when final version of Draw Steel comes out, Starfinder 2nd edition, so Pathfinder 2 related stuff, DC 20 when it finally releases, Draw Steel when it finally releases, 13th Age 2nd edition when it finally releases. So there's a lot of games out there that are kind of bigger, quote unquote, bigger names. But then there's all the small stuff too that I like talking about. I like talking about the games like Panic at the Dojo and Slug Blaster and Mythic Bastionland. So there's a lot for us to do. And I think that's an important value add that this channel can do by not focusing just on, nonstop, constant 5e products, Yeah. So, alrighty, folks. Well, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Shout out for helping refill the old coffers there for the first looks a little bit. Appreciate that. Shout out to Lord Kyler for the super chat to keep to express his love for the Daggerheart content. Gone but not forgotten. It'll still be there. Thank you to Jake, Aaron, and Edward for the tips, for supporting the first week for first looks, especially Edward for $20. Really, really looking forward to that. Hope you enjoyed the VOD, Edward. Again, I kind of started off a little overwhelmed, but I kind of came around to the idea. I still think the options presented are really neat. I love to see a game with input randomness instead of output randomness. And for a bonus fun stream that we just threw together here on a Monday because I didn't have racquetball because it got canceled. All in all, I thought it went pretty well. So thanks everybody for hanging out. And again, you can find us at patreon.com/Knights of Last Call, where you can join in on this crazy community and be part of all the fun behind the scenes stuff. Not to mention finding a lot of cool games that are being set up and run by some really cool GMs. You can also support us for free on twitch.tv/Knights of Last Call. So really, really appreciate there. If you don't have any money to spend, but you do have a Amazon Prime, you can support us over there as well. And of course, in the link below, there's a link to our Drive-Thru RPG affiliate. Anything you buy through that won't cost you a dime, but it does give us a couple of percentage points towards our account, which I only use to buy PDFs to do these first looks. So all of that is appreciated and is a great way for you to support us. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you tomorrow on Knights of Last Call. Peace.